Millijay. Waiting for Millijay. I think she was on a show, possibly. Nope. Here we go.
Hello.
Millijay, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm fine. I just got back with minutes to spare, so luckily.
Take your time. We need to get settled while we warm up the room.
No,
I'm
I'm
looking
good.
for.
The room is warm. Ready to go.
He's like, I'm ready.
No, I was rushing back, and yeah, I was had to take my wife out for some shopping and stuff, and then
Nice.
she's wanting to look at this and that. I'm like, we gotta go, and but just no, we gotta go. So we just got back, unloaded
Oh,
the car,
okay.
and ready to go. Perfect. So it's late for you. I know. I appreciate you taking the time, and I want to take the time with you for this particular interview. Um, we sort of planned to do it for a little while, but I think the timing's pretty good. Um,
Yeah, absolutely. No worries. Yeah, for sure. This is good timing. I was
mhm.
looking for my headset, but I don't know what I did with it. I think I left it in my car. But whatever.
Do you want to go and get it? So it's all good.
No, no,
You got
no.
time? Okay.
I don't. I think I'm good. Yeah, because
All
I'm
right.
not sure if it's there. So
Okay.
I'm chilling. I'm
Well,
relaxing. I'm gonna give myself a liquid courage drink.
you do that. It's a
All
bit of
right.
Dutch courage, a bit of chill medicine. So it's nice. I'm actually gonna have messages. Everyone switched off. It should have been message for super fans only. We're not gonna. I will take this message from Joshua at the end. He's a super fan, but we're gonna have messages off for this particular show. It just helps us go into the life of Millie J a little bit deeper. And Millie J, I'm sure. Can you still hear me? You can blink. Actually,
Yep,
blink.
yep,
I
yep.
meant with
I'm
the
here.
silence
I can
thing.
hear
There we
you.
go. Okay, cool. So for today's show, this is I do obviously conversations with other people with verified check marks, but then there's another series I started for people that aren't check marks, but that are quality people that I want to speak to. Not that other people aren't quality, but I think people that are sort of have got the potential to be verified, and I want to take the time to
Oh,
get people. So you might be a stranger to me or others. Well, not really me so much. We've become friends lately, but
mhm.
to turn people from strangers to friends. It's the same sort of process, just kind of a different series. And so I want to sort of go into your life a little bit today to get to know who Millie J is and ask a few questions here and there. And if anything's personal or you don't want to go into it, by all means, skip or pass. You don't have to go into it at all. Um, and just, be as open as you want, really. You don't have to share what you don't want to share. Okay?
Let's do it. I'm an open book. I'm all about it.
Okay.
Ask
Let's
me
do it.
away.
Okay. So, first of all, thanks, Rose. Yeah, I really appreciate you. You're always super supportive with tipping. I appreciate that. Um, So everyone give her a follow because she tips the hell out of me and I appreciate it so much. You don't have to really. I just feel bad that you're giving
That is
a lot
super
so much.
dope.
Oh, thank you, man. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Shout
Um,
out to Papa.
Far Far, he's a legend too. He's actually tipping quite a bit too. So
Yeah.
first of all, just go into a little bit about stereo. How did you get into stereo? How long you been on first? We'll crack the nut with that first, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. So, um, I actually started stereo in the last week of September, first week of October. Um, and it's funny because I used to do like not Facebook, Instagram lives. So one of my friends was like, "Oh, have you seen this ad for this app called Stereo?" Thank you, Red Rose. I appreciate it. And I was like, "No, I've never heard of it. What is it?" He's like, "I think you'd be really dope. Like, you should do it. Plus, you said the other day that you were gonna stop doing lives because you wanna like you don't have time to do your makeup every day." So I was like, and
The
so he
beauty
was
thing
like
about
a
stereo.
faithful
Yeah,
listener, right? He would always go to my
yeah.
lives. So I was like, okay, cool. His name's Fulano. I actually met him through my ex-boyfriend who used to be a DJ for clubs in Boston, and he was one of the promoters. So he's the one who told me about the app. He's not active on the app now, but shout out to my guy Fulano. We still very, very good friends. He's super, super dope. So he told me about the app. I came on it, and a day that I couldn't like sleep, I thought about the app, and I was like, you know what? Let me download it. It was like probably 4 in the morning my time. I downloaded the app, and the first conversation that I listened to was like this guy and a girl, and they were just talking about LA. One of them was a comedian. The other one, it was I think she worked at like a fast food restaurant or something like that. And it was a cool convo. I interacted with them in real time, and that really caught my attention. I'm a recruiter, and I absolutely love sociology. I'm a sociology junkie because it's the study of people, right? So I just enjoy how we are when we interact versus when we're in, alone. So I enjoyed having that like conversation. It was just me in the room talking to them. It was pretty cool. At the time you can only have two people. So,
Sure,
and
sure.
after that, when they ended, it immediately jumped me into a room, and that was actually the room of Infinite Thought. He was there with a guy, and they were fucking hilarious. They had me rolling. I was like, I woke up, I was in such a happy mood and good spirits. So that was like a Wednesday into a Thursday morning. Yes, it was a Thursday morning. No, Wednesday morning. Sorry, it was a Wednesday morning. And then he actually, Infinite Thought was like, we should do a talk. So this is day 2 on the app. And I was like, word, let's do a talk. And I hit the leaderboard on the second day, that I was
Oh,
on
wow.
stereo. So
Nice.
everybody knew who Millijay Green was. And of course, with that came a lot of love, but a lot of like, who the fuck is this bitch who already hit the leaderboard?
Just popped your cherry straight onto the leadership board. That's pretty
Right.
cool.
And then I was like, what the fuck is the leaderboard? I have no idea what the fuck this is. And they're like, oh, you're going to get some money. I was like, what? So my first week, I made $100. It was pretty cool.
Nice. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I kind of
Yeah.
found out about it January, so I was a little, no, I wouldn't say late, still early in the piece, but late after a few of the initial people got established. So, and it was the podcast factor that got my attention, but also leadership board where you can win money. And I knew it was kind of the perfect excuse that I could say to my wife, hey, I need to spend some time on here because we can win some money, Otherwise she'd be like, what are you wasting your time on an app? Like already
Right.
Facebook was, things like that. So yeah, so it was a good excuse, but then it disappeared by the time I could sort of try and get established. But oh well.
It's
Um,
okay. You're here now
no,
and people love
I'm
you.
here
We
now.
love you. And
Thank you.
absolutely.
Likewise. No, I appreciate that. Okay, so Millijay, so tell me, where were you born? How old are you? Like, where did you sort of grow up? I want to the first place we always start. Let me know a
All
little
right.
bit about you.
All right, cool. I want to first apologize because I'm going to be chewing some gum, and that's super disrespectful during an interview. If you interviewed with me and you're looking for a job and you're chewing gum, I would not hire you. So I
Blow
would
some bubbles if you
apologize
want.
for
It's fine
that.
for me.
It helps me with
All
my
good.
anxiety. So when you guys hear that, that means I'm a little anxious. Um, so I I was born in Cambridge Hospital, and that's in like the Boston area. It's right next to Boston, a city in Boston. And my parent, I'm first generation born in the United States in Cambridge. My parents are El Salvadorian. They both came from El Salvador at a very young age. So from Cambridge, I was born there because we lived in Somerville. From Somerville, actually, our house burned when I was a year old. I don't remember any of this.
Oh.
My dad told me this. And from there we moved to East Boston, and then I grew up in East Boston. Went to elementary school, middle school, and then in middle school we moved to a little more of like the suburbs, not quite the suburbs, but kind of like in between the city and the suburbs. Right, like
Hmm.
right the outskirts of the Boston area. What else did you ask me?
No, that's good. And sort of like, how old are you as well? Just roughly, so I have an
Oh,
idea.
okay. Oh, you never ask a woman how old she is, Rocstedi. Shame on
Sorry.
you.
How young are you?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. So I'm 32 years young. I'm 32 years young.
Yes.
And
Lovely.
yeah, 32 years young.
Beautiful. Okay. So your
Oh,
parents came over when they were quite young.
yes, they
How
were
old are
young.
you talking? In their teens, or they were kids that
Yes,
they
they were those teenagers that they complain about crossing the border, that come by themselves. Those were my parents. That's why I'm so like big in helping our community and trying to help them really with getting situated in the United States, because especially like DACA, the dreamers. My parents were that, but they didn't have the DACA dreamers really yet. It's not something that they knew about or were informed of. Um, and but they knew that they wanted to get asylum here because of the civil war that was happening, the Salvadorian Civil War that started in 1976 or 79, something like that, if I remember correctly, and ended until like the 1990s. They actually came before that. My mom came here in 88 and my dad came here in 86. Um, and they
Okay,
my
so
when I
that
was
was a question of mine. Yeah, I was
yeah.
just they
Oh,
went
there you go.
together when they came here. They didn't meet each other before they
No,
were teenagers and met in America.
no. They met at work. So they used to do cleaning. They used to clean an insurance company's office. That's where they met. And the funny thing is that my dad tells us the story, and he's like, "Oh, I eyed your mom out at the bus stop. Like I saw when she was at the bus stop," and he was like, "And I was so nervous that I walked 2 blocks to the next bus stop." And he's like, "And then I wanted to sit next to her, but I was all sweaty." So he had already eyed out my mom and approached her. My mom was super innocent. I mean, she didn't really know much of much. Super innocent. Both of them from like humble little villages, and they met here in like the Somerville, Cambridge area.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, your grandparents are both from both sides of the family located in America too. So they came over with your grandparents, or they came on their own to start getting work.
No, they came on their own. So,
Right.
but my grandmother from my mom's side, my mother's mom, she never came to America. She's always lived in El Salvador, never wanted to migrate here. She is definitely like super Salvadorian from like, the hills, the villages. But see, over there, hills is not like Beverly Hills. It's like caseríos, campos. It's like a really poor area, and she never wanted to move because my mom bought other homes in the capital and in bigger cities. My mom has property. She has a ranch, and my grandmother's like, nope, I love it up here, and she just stayed living up there. But my grandmother
Sure.
from my dad's side, who is the love of my life, my grandma, I love her so fucking much. I know I'm her favorite grandchild, even though she's never directly said it. She doesn't have to. I know I
Yeah.
am. Um, Shout out to my abuelita. She lived here in the United States, but she came after my father. My father and a few of his brothers and cousins migrated here first, and he's the only son that my grandmother had, so he had to be the man and come and make some money to pay so that they could come out here as well.
Right. Okay.
My dad brought his mother and his sisters, all six of them.
Yeah. So that's something similar to what kind of my grandparents did. So I'm of Italian descent, and they came over in the 50s, and like my
Hmm.
grandfather came over first on a boat. So I think it was like 6.5 weeks or something like that for the boat
Did
to
he
come
come in
over
the
from Italy to
Titanic?
Australia. No, it wasn't, and I don't think that quite made it. Yeah, I've heard stories that went down. But yeah, basically, he came out after he met my grandmother, went back, then he got her pregnant, and then came back to Australia and kept working. And then when my dad was born, who was first, they came out when he was 1 year old. So he first saw his son when he was one. So it's the sort of thing that people did back then, back in the day,
Right.
right? Like they were like sort of trying to chase work, they were trying to get established and do things for the family. And my grandfather, being the oldest son, also bought a lot of his family out, but his parents stayed there. My great grandparents stayed there. But yeah, same sort of story, but a little bit
Similar
different, of
story,
course, you
yeah.
know. Yeah.
It's a beautiful
Okay,
story, the
so
story of migrating.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's right. That's right. Um, so you have any brothers and sisters, siblings, or
I
you an
do.
only
I have
child,
three brothers. They're a big pain in the fucking ass.
or?
um, my parents are very interesting creatures. They had four total, but they took a break. So when my mom got pregnant, she was 15 and pregnant. So if that was a thing back in the day, she definitely would not have been in MTV actually, because she didn't have the personality for it. But anyways, she was too shy. She was super shy. She tells me all the time. Um, she was 15 and pregnant, and the funny thing is that where my dad lived at the time, they had two they had two bedrooms, but there was like 12 people that lived in that apartment. And because
Sure.
my mom was pregnant, the old guy that actually he was one of the ones, like the senior one who had that apartment, he allowed my mom and my dad to put a bed there, so people were jealous because she was pregnant, so they had a
Sure.
bedroom. So yeah, that's the life that my parents lived when I was born. Then I was born. So my mom's 16 and my dad is 18 at the time. And I don't know how the fuck they did it. I'm 32 and I do not have any kids.
Yeah, I had my first at 33, and it's still not easy. And I can't imagine having a kid in my 20s, like my young 20s, but it was just different then. And of course, if you did have a kid at that age, you just deal with it. You do it somehow. But it's
Right.
certainly not easy to
Absolutely.
have kids for either way. It doesn't, I don't think that matters what age you are. Okay, so you were the oldest child then?
Yes, I'm the oldest.
And then?
Um,
Mhm.
then 2 years later, 2.5 years later, my brother was born. He's eFigs here on the app. He's only been here a few times.
Okay.
I made him join just so he could subscribe to me.
Otherwise, because you're the big sister, he has to do it.
Yeah, no, we have a great relationship. That was my best friend growing up. We had each other's back. Our parents, because being an immigrant, correct terminology is actually undocumented now. Being an undocumented Salvadorian in the United States is not easy at all. There's a lot of trials and tribulations that you face. And obviously money solves a lot of any problems that we face in life. And so both of my parents worked two full-time jobs, and my brother and I would take care of each other. Actually, today in our Hispanic foods show, I was talking about how we used to grab the hard shell tacos and put like Nutella and fluff and peanut butter and bananas. It's like so gross now that I think about it, but we used to,
Yeah, but it's
we
perfect
used
when
to
you're a
take care
kid.
of each other. Yeah, when you're a kid, I was
No,
like, this is
mum and dad
so
can't.
good. Right.
Can't tell you off. You're just like, yeah, I'll have anything we want in there. Nice one.
Right. Oh
Okay.
my God.
So your brother that you're close to is closer in age to you, and then there's a gap or something
Yes.
like that, or was there a gap?
He actually
Okay.
just got engaged. Shout out to my brother
Oh,
eFigs. He
congratulations.
just got engaged. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitch. He's a big streamer. Um, so yes, he actually he just got engaged. He's 30 years old, or he's gonna be 30 actually. January 1st. He was born on New Year's. He has an awesome story. I
Wow.
might get into. But so yeah, he was born January 1st, and then my mom got this like birth control that you used to get in your arm before an implant
Oh
they
yeah.
put, and it lasted 10
Mhm.
years. And so she literally missed her appointment. It went the next week, but she still ended up, she got it replaced,
Wow.
and she still got pregnant. She got pregnant by Junior. The reason why they called him Junior, my parents, is because my grandmother's birthday is December 31st. And
All right.
so we always celebrated my grandmother's birthday growing up. My grandmother and my brother simultaneously, but my grandmother's the New Year's Eve. So my mom had like 4 times where she thought she was about to give birth, but she didn't. So they kept sending her home. So the fifth time that my dad takes her, it was about to be 12. So my dad thought they would probably send her home again, and it was like a long wait. So my dad, being a asshole 21-year-old, he left, went to my grandmother's party, left my mom at the hospital. This time my brother was born, so my mom was like, fuck that, I'm not calling him Junior. So she didn't want to call him after his name, so she decided to just give him his her last name and a different
Oh.
first name. So she was so
Okay.
pissed at him. And that story is significant just because I remember everyone's like, why do you guys have different, you guys have different dad? And we're like, no, we have the same dad. So that's a story we always had to explain in school. And then eventually, before he turned 18, they actually changed it and added
Okay.
Figueroa. So yeah.
Right. Right. So you,
And then I have
your
two
dad got
more.
in there straight away with that little gap of that
Right.
pregnancy. Wow. There's an old
Yeah.
saying that says, "I'm not as good as I once was, but as good once as I ever was," and that's certainly in the case of your dad, I think.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, absolutely. My dad's a great man. But when he was young, I mean, he was hot. The ladies loved him. He knows how to dance. So he was like, I want to go to the party. Typical tool.
Boys will be
So
boys.
that's why 10 years later, when she accidentally, we were all a fucking accident. That's crazy. When she got pregnant again, when she got pregnant, they called him Junior, and then they felt like Junior should not be. He was treated like an only child. He had siblings that were teen, that were like older
Mm.
teens, young adult, going into young adults. So he was somewhat of a brat, So my dad was like, he needs a little buddy. So he had another one 3 years later. My little brother Danny, D Figs. They're J Figs, D Figs, and E Figs on Twitch and PlayStation.
There you go. Nice
Yeah.
one. That's awesome. Okay, so so when you were starting to go to school when you were young, tell me, what was that like? What was your neighborhood like where you were living? Obviously, you come from a Latina background. Was it pretty
Mhm.
accepting in the neighborhood you were in, or was it not? I'm not sure. You got to
Yeah.
paint the picture for me because from Australia, I'm not really sure.
Yeah. No, absolutely. So where I'm from Boston. Shout out to Bean, shout out to the Bean, Boston, Massachusetts. I say, I was born in Cambridge, but we moved to the east side of Boston. So, reason we moved there is because they had my dad tells me all the time they had free classes for them to learn how to speak English, him and my mom, and on Saturday mornings. And then they also had bilingual, and they wanted to make sure that they could communicate with the teachers. So yeah, I grew up in East Boston. I went to bilingual classes all the way up until the third grade. It was my last bilingual course because in the city, they didn't have it in the budget to keep bilingual classes. So they switched us all to just regular courses. So was thrown in a class. They started speaking English, and I picked it up. I mean, shout out to me for that because I don't know how the hell I did it, but I did it. I remember just struggling with speaking English, and then in the fourth grade. But I was always like super good at math because of that. I was like, oh, I don't really understand how to say this word or how to say that word. Um, but I learned, and I also, the advantage I had is that on top, and not just me, actually, a lot of Latinos that were thrown into regular courses kind of faced the same thing. I would see them in Saturday morning school with our parents because they were learning how to speak English too. So we were all just
Sure, sure.
learning how to speak English. Boston was a predominantly Italian place, actually. It was all Italians. They used to actually even throw the Italian festival. Um, I would say East Boston to me was a place where, the Italian community took us in very well. We used to, and this is again East Boston, they used to, you know, like help like the guy that lived in the whole, well, lived next to us. He owned the whole street. Like,
Oh wow.
I don't know. Legends say, I don't know this to be true, but it was all Italian mafia kind of people up in there. It was definitely, they helped my parents buy their first home, which it was their first investment property. My grandmother moved there. It was a 3-family home. It was definitely more of like the poor area, not like Southie where like the more Italian Irish lived with money. And it was East Boston was very similar to like across the bridge, Dorchester, Roxbury, where it was more poor. Like we didn't really, we had a lot of like that Latinos, Haitian community, and so didn't the other side of the bridge. So I would say growing up until we moved in like the 6th grade, getting involved with gangs, and actually the ones who I faced issues with that were not accepting were actually my own people. In El Salvador, there's a big gang that formed in LA, not in El Salvador, my bad, in LA, this gang, MS-13. A lot of people have heard it. It's Mara Salvatrucha. That's what it stands for. And
Mhm.
that means Salvadorian gang. And if you are from Salvadorian family or you just migrated here and you don't give them the attention and you don't want to join their gang, they actually follow you around. Like they literally harass you, they try to beat you up, steal your money. They try to do whatever it is that they can to get you to join. And since I didn't want to join and I didn't want to date any of their men, I started getting harassed by them, and started associating myself with like gangs that from the opposite, that had beef with them, so that they can protect me per se, and um, I'm not gonna lie, like right now that I just got banned, I felt like I know I said I didn't want to talk about this, but right now that I just got banned, I felt like I had a whole gang behind me. It felt so good. So that's pretty much, my parents were like, we don't like this. She's hanging around with gangs. We definitely don't want you doing this. So we ended up moving to the outskirts of Boston, as I just mentioned, and that is where I would say I've had a difficult time being accepted, because the community there, I would say it was definitely, 90% Caucasian, maybe like 5-6% Asian, and then 3% Black and 2% Latino. So that was really a difficult place growing up there. And that was the 7th grade until I graduated high school.
Okay, so so when you say difficult, do you mean difficult on the streets or difficult at school as well?
Oh my God. Difficult in definitely school. I would say the worst place was fucking school. I hated school with a passion. Okay. So because my parents were so strict growing up, I used school as my fucking playground. The teachers hated me. And
Okay.
unfortunately, I did go to schools that were extremely racist. I mean, one teacher told me that I was going to end up cleaning bathrooms anyway, so that she didn't really care, that I don't have to try. I did, just for everyone to know, I'm a changed woman now, but I threw a book at her head. She pissed me off so much.
And what are you, about 12, 11, 12 years old at that stage?
I was 14 years old when this happened. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, 14.
Okay, so school was tough. It was, you hated school, and hated school because you didn't want to learn. You were being rebellious for what reasons? Because you missed your friends back from the other town, or were you getting
Absolutely.
picked on at all?
Oh my God, for sure. So I had one fucking eyebrow. All right. I know stereo spicy. I know I look good now. You know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to
You look
act like I'm
beautiful.
full of myself, but I'm a sexy bitch or whatever. But yes, I used to get picked on. I had one eyebrow. And on top of that, my parents being so fucking strict for no reason and so religious. And now these motherfuckers don't even go to church, but they were so religious. And I'm sorry, Rocstedi, I swear a lot. I noticed that the other day.
I've noticed, but that's fine. It's totally fine on my podcast. So I don't mind.
Okay. So, because the other day someone's like, I was censoring your message on Instagram, and it was like beep 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 beep. I think it was the crybaby actually posted it. I was like, oh
Swear
damn.
away.
All
Don't
right,
change who you
cool,
are.
cool,
That's what I
cool.
want to know. Just go ahead.
So this is me relaxed. I'm not in work
Good.
mode. So
Perfect.
yeah, so like I was ugly, and on top of that I loved playing soccer, and I was really good. Freshman year I made the varsity team. All right. And I had practice. I had been practicing. My goal was, when I got to freshman year, I wanted to prove to my dad that I was really good at soccer, and the only way to do that, to get him to pay for a club team I wanted to join, was for me to make the varsity team. He made it very clear. So I busted my ass off the summer after 8th grade. And it sucked because, when we would change, like I had a really nice body, and then I had like hairy legs because my dad didn't let me shave my legs. So I used to get picked on, the stupid fucking little girls were like, ew, she looks so gross. I bet you her feet stank because she got hairy legs, like it was so bad. I nerded out on math. Math and soccer were just like everything, and music. Like it kept me grounded. I would do my own little art, my own little poems. But school fucking sucked, man. People are bullies, and you kind of relive how bullies are here on stereo sometimes. But school was awful. People are very mean and nasty sometimes, and you have to really learn how to love yourself, to be able to deal with that, because rejection, and I actually encourage everyone, if you didn't hear my show after my ban, it's here, it's called This Live Is For You. I encourage everybody to go and listen to it, because I said a lot of great stuff there, and I meant it. Rejection is really difficult, but being able to deal with it and understand that it's your friend really helps you overcome anything. But yeah, school was, it was the worst, but it taught me a lot.
Okay, so just to hold there for a minute and go into it slightly, um, tell me some of the memorable moments. What were not nice? I mean, the bullying that went on. What are some of the moments that that really hit you the hardest?
So So in middle school, right? And it bothered me so much. I don't even know why, because it wasn't that serious, right? I wish I would have known what I know now. But in middle school, I didn't hear it as much as I did when I was in high school from the girls, right? Because I still didn't have a rack yet, or a butt. So I wasn't, and they weren't envious of me yet. But they used to call me Jackie Chan because my name is Jacqueline. By the way, and I don't mind giving out my actual name. It's all over Clubhouse. If you're there, you'll see my real name. I do have an article that was written by the Boston Globe about that experience that I used to face with MS-13 and joining gangs and moving, because they did an article regarding gentrification and also just the study of like how our first generation born Americans from other countries, we kind of made sure that we did anything in our power to educate ourselves to get a career type job, because that was very important to our parents. So they did a study with Harvard and Stanford and a few other universities from different cities, and I was one of the people that they reviewed. So that's available on
Oh,
the Boston Globe, and I'll send that to the
nice
Stereo
one.
Squad.
Yeah, send it
Yeah.
to me. I wanna look at that too. Um, so yeah, one of the most memorable moments that was kind of you
Um,
getting bullied.
yeah. So they used to call me Jackie Chan, the little kids in middle school. They were so mean because my name's Jacqueline Figueroa. So Jackie Chan is a man,
Hmm.
and it was kind of also because I had hairy legs. Like I already had hairy legs in middle school. So that was an awful, awful moment remembering that shit, to be honest with you. And then the other one that I would say that I remember that was awful was going to the eighth grade. Oh, actually, it was eighth. It was the summer from eighth grade to ninth grade. Going to this carnival that they had in right in front of the movie theaters. Um, I really had a crush on this kid. His name is Eddie. He was the captain of the soccer team, and there was a cheerleader for football that really, that liked him too. So for the festival, she was like, "You're never gonna get somebody like Eddie." She's like, "You're like a maid." She's like, "You're Betty La Fea. You're a maid." And I like cried. And then ever since that day, I was like, "No bitch is ever gonna bully me again. I'm dope." And that summer, I got my period because I'm a late bloomer. I got my period. I got a rack. I went into freshman year looking like a whole fucking hot tamale. So that shit was, yeah, that's a memorable moment.
So was that the pivotal moment where you think that you started to stand up for yourself against bullies?
Yes, absolutely. I was like, I don't give a fuck. No one's gonna talk to me like this. I has took it from my own people. I'm taking them from these little cheerleaders. I hated cheerleaders my entire life. And then I became like literally the advocate for my people, the advocate for the nerds, the advocate for the weirdos that dressed like gothic. Everybody in high school had their own table, and I used to just go around and sit with everybody. Little did they know I used to do that because I was a rebel, and my mom would be like, "Okay, you're leaving." So she used to kick me out. So I used to have to go live with my grandma, and because I was so rebellious or whatever. So I wouldn't have money for lunch. So because I was cool with everybody, I used to take a little bit of food from everybody's table. I've
State of
always
survival.
hustled my way through life.
Okay, so um, from the moment that you had that realization against bullies, what was the next moment that came along where you sort of utilized that and would not allow yourself to be picked on? Was there an empowering moment there somewhere?
Oh my God, this is going to be so ridiculous, but I have to be super honest. I said I would.
Sure.
So, the first fight I ever got into, the real fight, this was actually freshman year of high school. I'm telling you, high school is the fucking worst. I swear to God. I'm going to go get my water while I tell you guys this. Don't mind my floor. It's just old and makes a lot of noise. Thankfully,
All
I
good.
live by myself. I would have hated to live in this house when I was growing up because I would have gotten caught sneaking out of my house. But I would say the moment that my first fight. So there was this kid. He had just moved from Florida, and everybody would make fun of him. Like the kid was really ugly, and for some reason, he used to like. I don't know if he just didn't brush his teeth good, but he used to have like shit on his teeth. And we were in the spicy chicken sandwich line. That line used to be crazy. Everybody wanted a fucking spicy chicken sandwich, you know? And one of these bitch ass cheerleaders, I'm telling you, I hated them. They used to also sit on the tables that were tall, the tall tables. I hated those bitches. Ugh, I'm just remembering how much I hated them. One of them, like, started making fun of him, like, oh, you're breasting for no reason, you know? And I was there, and this bitch like flips her hair over and hits my face, and I just grabbed her hair and I started fucking fighting. I'm like, she's just there bullying people, thinking she's the shit. And that was the first fight I ever got into. And I'm not gonna lie, I was like, something in me was shaking. I didn't know what to do, and I was like, I'm so sick of it. And you know, growing up Hispanic, like, and you don't see this a lot now. I think we've changed a lot in culture. Well, here in the United States, you don't see that because it's illegal. They'll throw a 51A on you real quick and take your kids away. But you know, in El Salvador, they still do this. Like, you know, discipline is with a belt. You get hit
Mm-hmm.
and it hurts.
Mm-hmm.
You have to
Yeah.
kneel and rinse. They still do shit like this, you know?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's kind of like a thing I eventually, of course, found out through therapy, etc. That happens. Like, you do get, you know, kind of like anger. So it's like, fuck that shit. I'm not gonna allow anybody to touch me, disrespect me, because I've experienced this at home and I can't do nothing. Because, you know, hitting your mother's a sin. Your hand will turn into dust. It's a saying in Spanish.
Sure.
So I would take all that anger out on bitches that used to bully me. And from there, I used to fight a lot. I actually got expelled from 4 different cities, 4 different schools.
Right. Okay. So
Yeah.
let's just rewind slightly. When you were back in the east side of Boston, and MS-13 would follow you around, kind of harass you. You wouldn't date their guys. What sort of things were happening at that time? I want to know a couple of memorable moments from that, and how you reacted and how you felt when that was happening.
Oh yeah, well, it was tough, right? Especially because my parents were really involved in the community. So I would see these little fuckers. Because that's the thing a lot of people don't know. So some of these kids, it's true, they don't have parents. Their parents are in El Salvador. But a lot of these kids, they had great parents, hardworking parents that had no idea that, you know, they were in fucking gangs. So I would say that when I would see them in like September 15th in the Boston City Hall where they used to raise the flag because it's our Independence Day. I used to see them, and it used to suck because you can't fight. Like, it doesn't matter, no matter what, in front of your parents in a place like that. No one makes a fuss. Everyone's there united for the country. You know, representation of El Salvador and other Central American countries. So it would be tough because these are kids who would send girls to like rip my shirt when I was walking home from school. Like, I got my shirt ripped a few times. You know, and again, like I said, this was from my own people. This was me when I was in the 6th grade and the 7th grade. So it's one of those things where, you know, when we moved to a city like 15 minutes away. That gang was, again, if you are El Salvadorian and you're not in MS-13, they will harass you. So they used to drive over to the high school when it was time to come out. You know, so I continued to experience that a lot, and it wasn't easy, but eventually, like I said, I aligned myself with other gangs. And once you're part of, you know, I think a lot of kids that join gangs, because my parents, I've always been like, don't pay attention to that shit. Like, it doesn't matter. My dad's like, you better, if somebody hits you, you better poke their eyeballs out. If, you know, if you're fighting, like, don't let them beat you up. So I always like felt like I needed to be with people because it would be like 6, 7 fucking gang members, you know, coming after school. So once you're associated with other people, another gang, they used to have your back. And you know, they were more likely to just leave you alone because they didn't want to start a big fight or something.
Okay. I want to ask you a question. Is relating to your parents? Why, or was it maybe your school? But why do you think you were feeling so rebellious at that age?
Because I think, you know, not only was I changing schools a lot, my parents, so, you know, another big thing was we would move to areas that people definitely had a lot more money than we did. You know, my parents were still, my mom at this time was studying to be a lawyer. She would travel a lot to El Salvador because that's where she's a lawyer. Um, and she's also like really involved in politics. So sometimes she'd be away for like 6 months out of the year. So my grandmother would be really in charge of us, and then my dad worked his ass off. My father's a workaholic. This man used to sleep 3 hours every day. for as long as I could remember. That's why I love my father to death. He did everything he could to really kind of give us a better life. Um, and he's a great man. So I think that I felt freedom. And because I wasn't able to shave my legs before, I wasn't able to dye my hair. I even throughout high school, I was not able to do any of that. I felt like, I felt a little rebellious. Like, yeah, fuck this shit. I'm going to do me. And then afterwards, I would say because the teachers were nasty, they really were. They were a disgrace.
Mm-hmm.
Now that I'm like an adult, I'm like, wow, I can't believe these women were teachers. It was awful.
Okay. So your mum would travel quite a lot, spending up to 6 months at a time sometimes away
Yeah.
in El Salvador, working, trying to obviously earn money for the family. Your dad was a workaholic, working his ass off, sleeping 3 hours a day at times because he's a
Mhm.
workaholic. Good father, that's great. Um, Now you say beautiful man. He was there working his ass off for the family, but as a kid, even though you might have been aware he was working, you don't really probably realize he's doing that for the family. You're probably thinking a lot of other things because maybe part of your logic hasn't formed or understand life just enough
No.
yet. So, what was kind of running through your head when mum's away, dad's working his ass off, staying with your grandmother? How did you feel towards your parents at that time when they weren't there?
No, actually, the complete opposite. I knew why they were doing what they were doing because we moved to areas that, again, they were not the suburbs, but they were definitely, and we moved around a lot. Like every 2.5 years, my parents would sell their home. And the thing is that even if you're two streets over, that might now be a new city. So this is a new school district. So there we go, brand new school for us. That's why I used to fight so much. Yeah, I had to earn my respect. That's just how I felt. That's the motto I used to live by. You can catch these hands, point blank, period. And it always worked. I used to run shit, always have and always will. But like I think that's really why I was so rebellious, having to move around, and it wasn't easy. But they needed to make sure that they could provide to us. There was kids whose parents were nurses. They were dentists. They had their own practices. Everybody used to go to John's father to get the teeth cleaning every 6 months, like it was a community that had been there for generations, like the Everett area, the Revere area, the Malden area, again, outskirts of Boston, 15, 20 minutes away. So I always understood, it was instilled in me that, my parents were chasing the American dream.
Oh, we just lost you for a second. Give it a second. She should come back. Good story so far, though, Millijay. Hopefully you do pop back here. So I do have a question or a bubble from Joshua. He's just coming in to say hi, so I'll just pop that out the way. Here we go.
Yo, I'm just coming through real fast to say what's up, and then I'm right back out. Rocstedi, Millijay Green. What's poppin'?
Thanks, Joshua. Always good to hear from you, brother. Millijay, come back. What are you doing? This has happened once before when I was interviewing. I like Brett, and his internet died or his phone died or something. She may have had a call or something. I'm just going to send her a quick message. Oh, dear. So, thank you for the support, by the way, who's there. Thank you for the showing the love so far with the fire and the hearts and the clapping. That's so much appreciated. Nice little crowd here. It's like midday, just after midday here in Perth, Australia. It's like awesome weather. I couldn't wait to get back to interview Millie. But she might have not paid an internet bill, only part of it, because she's gone. So, what a shame. I sent her a message and it doesn't seem to be going through. I think she might be having internet troubles. I might just open the messages real quick. If anyone wants any questions for me to ask Millijay, then go for it. So Messages are open now until she comes back. So if anyone does want to ask anything, go for it. Now's the time. Millijay. Thanks for the love. Appreciate that. I'll just sum up a couple of things too while I'm waiting. It's interesting when I start to hear stories a lot from people from across the world, and my main market here is the US. My friends are sort of mainly from there. I've got UK as well and Australia, but the main portion here in Stereo is from the US. And I come from an Italian background, as you heard briefly before, and it's just amazing how it doesn't matter where people go in the world, they have kind of similar stories about that hardship from the time period rather than the location sometimes, coming from one country to another. I even did it myself, actually, going over to Thailand 7, 8 years ago now. And it's like I had that similar thing. I went there with like three suitcases and nothing. I had to like build myself up to get sort of success in the businesses that I had, even though we kind of lost it from COVID. But it was something that you just did. I think it was like not a big deal. I just went there and, oh, she's back. That's good.
Sorry.
That's okay.
My phone died.
Oh, okay, I thought so. Luckily, lucky you made it back in time.
Yes, I was like, fuck. I knew my phone was gonna die too. I'm like, I need to let my phone charge. But I have a really bad habit of pacing around, even when I interview somebody. I'm in talent acquisition. So when I'm interviewing somebody, I tend to do the same shit. I tend to pace around. But I'm gonna stay still.
Oh, good. Not a problem. That's good. I have a habit of on the phone doing the same thing, but I've got a little podcast studio I sit in when I do this. So as much as I want to pace, I'm like glued to the iPad at the moment. So, sorry, the very last thing that we were just saying then was, let me just recap there. Well, I wanted to do a recap anyway. I want to recap about your life a little bit now. So just to sum you up to this point only, and we'll continue after this, is that, I was just briefly saying while you were away that it's amazing how people from, different countries can still experience similar things, like my grandparents coming over and my parents having those hardships. My parents kind of went through what you went through. I didn't have to, but then I turned around and experienced something similar, not to the full extent as what you and your parents and grandparents did, but over in Thailand, I went over there with my wife. We had our kids over there and stuff like that. And it was hard for me over there too, starting from scratch and nothing, had to work and do what I had to do, right? But this is your story now. And you've come from a place where you've witnessed your parents struggling, trying to live the American dream is what you last said before you cut off, I think.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Trying to achieve that with income for the family, doing the best thing for the family, strict parents, religious parents. I can completely envision this kind of concept. And you're getting shuffled from school to school. It's kind of hard to make some long-term friends a little bit if you're like, maybe you didn't have trouble making friends, I'm not sure, but to keep those friends when you're young, moving from town to town was kind of difficult, right? Because we couldn't just hop in our car, or we didn't have mobile or cell phones back then. And you're feeling a little bit rebellious.
That's the beauty of a gang.
Yeah, well, true.
I'm being
kind of,
serious too. Like, I know it sounds crazy, but that is the beauty of having a gang that backs you up, I guess I'd like to say, because I'm not officially, in no gang, never was. But it's definitely helpful to have that, because they will travel miles, oceans. They will cross oceans for you. It's a family,
Is
So
that
I
where
never
you felt
alone,
that unity?
even though we moved.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I was just going to say, yes. So you felt...
That's why I hated school, because we went to different schools, like we didn't go to the same schools.
Yeah. And so, like, what people might find in school when they're young with their group of friends that they stay with from primary up to whatever to high school, you kind of found with your gang friends, rather, because they were always there.
That's a fact.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. One question as well I was curious about is what made you not want to go with MS-13 with your own people? And I don't know who the other people were. You said you chose the opposition. I don't know who they were or what
Yeah.
they were or whatever, but what was the reason that you went to the opposition rather than, I'm assuming that they weren't your own people, air quotes there.
Well, I went to, so there were some of our own people, similar stories to mine, that didn't want to associate with MS-13. Well, reason being is, so actually, a fun fact, the founder of MS-13 is the reason why we have Miranda rights today, because he didn't speak the language. He was pulled over, and he was actually being sought for rape, extortion. You know, they were known for that. They would rape young girls and kill them. I mean, that's why actually Donald Trump's orange ass decided to say, you know, all Salvadorians that cross the border are MS-13. But that's not true, because MS-13 was created in Los Angeles. So it wasn't even a thing that was created in El Salvador. Now, yes, there is a lot of MS-13 now, but that was not the case before. MS-13 was a gang that was created here in the United States, and they were known for all of that. So, in order to flee, when they were being sought out in California and LA, they decided to come, to the East Coast, New Jersey, New York, Pennsylvania, Boston, and they spread around these areas. And so we knew what they would do to girls. So we obviously wanted nothing to do with them. I was taught, my dad used to be like, be careful. They used to be on the news. It was a big thing. And then the other gang was really a group of kids, Southsiders in 18th Street. And it was it was just a whole bunch of kids who, had a very
wouldn't put up with
similar
their shit.
background to me,
Mm-hmm.
and didn't put up with their shit. They had a similar
Mm-hmm.
upbringing to me. They had similar values. The way we respected our family, the way, we believed, we understood our parents were working, and we weren't going to use our time to go and steal and extort. Like, we would bust our ass off work, and, maybe, maybe not me, but some other people would sell drugs in order to make money,
Sure.
but they wouldn't go and steal or rob and, shoot people or for no reason, other than gang violence that would occur, of course. But we didn't believe in, extortion, and we didn't believe in hurting others,
Okay.
unless they were the ops.
Right. So were there any moments where you did find trouble while you were around the gang before your parents moved to another suburb away from them? Or did they save you
Yeah,
from
for
that
sure.
completely? Okay.
I mean, I did find trouble, because that's the thing too. When you're with a group of people, you end up getting in a lot of fights, and with the other opposite. Thankfully, I mean, I've been like stabbed, but nowhere, I got stabbed in my leg. Nothing that really kind of could have put my life in that much danger. But I have friends who lost their hands to machetes, lost their life. One of my best friends, Maria, rest in peace, she's now dead, didn't necessarily to gang violence, but more the habits of being in a gang, of drinking all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So, she's unfortunately no longer with me. I've had a lot of friends who died for, gun violence. It's just part of the life. Not all of them make it. And they always say that when you're involved in that life, most of your friends, when you get older, are either dead or in jail.
This really blows me away on with America and hearing these stories, because I was speaking to Sketches a few episodes ago when I was doing something like this, and he was telling me similar sort of things from the projects that he grew up in, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just like I find it so far out of my world to think that growing up that some of your friends have been killed and things like that. That's just like never happened to me. It's not even like around where we are in Australia. It's so bizarre, but fascinating to hear how different people's lives could be. Not in a good way. It's just like, oh my God, like
Right. No, I understand what
yeah,
you mean. No, I think it's
yeah,
fascinating that you live in a place where that doesn't exist. That's a beautiful thing. And
yeah.
hopefully we could one day live in a world where none of it exists.
Sure, that's kind of the point of these conversations, is just to get people to understand like everyone's different life and where they've come from, and maybe they have things they can relate to or not, and if you don't, how hard it may
That's
have
a
been
fact.
for others and how lucky others were. It's just we're all
That's
people
a
of the
fact.
earth, and we're just trying to understand each other, because we all feel the same. We all like bleed the same. Is basically what I'm trying to say.
We're all made
Yeah.
out of bones and meat.
Yeah, bones and meat. Yes, and steaks.
I'm
So, I
translating
love
the
steaks.
saying in Spanish. It's like we're todos somos hechos de carne y hueso, and I'm like, that sounds so weird in English, but yeah, I'm gonna
Oh,
go
it
with
sounds sexy in Spanish, I tell you. So,
it.
all right. So, let's skip back to where we were fast forwarding a little bit before when you said that you sort of stuck up for yourself when the first time started getting to fights.
Mhm.
I was kind of trying to sum that up a little bit, saying that you were picked on for a little while with a strict family, getting moved around, probably a little bit of gang influence by then. That that shit just built up, and you burst out, and you kind of found yourself that maybe you weren't getting picked on as much. You might have been getting to fights, but you weren't taking the shit anymore. You were giving it back. Would I be right in saying
Yeah,
that?
oh, I was totally giving it back. Fuck yeah. And I was never
And
really good at verbally arguing because obviously I had just learned the language not so long ago. I was, I was in the third grade, fourth grade when I learned. How old are we in the fourth grade? Whatever that is. So I no
nine-ish.
longer had like an accent, but I still had an accent, if that makes any sense.
Yep. Totally get that. Yep. And that's why
But yeah, I
maths would
didn't
have been
take
easy for
no
you, right?
shit from
Numbers.
nobody.
Good, yeah. Numbers would have been easy for you because there was no different language for that. You could understand numbers from a young age and
Right.
continue with that, right? So that would have
I
been
took AP math freshman year all the way up until senior year. I mean, math was my shit. My teachers would always be, you need to be an engineer. And that's actually the only teachers that I would like really get along with and loved me very much. It was always my math teacher or computer class. Um, and so they would tell me, you need to be an engineer. You need to be an engineer. That's why I love me some algorithms. Math is life. Life is math.
not wrong there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so I noticed that you said before that you were the one to stick up for people that were like gothics or emos or whatever you call them in America. Just the people
Yeah.
that may have been outcast a little bit. You kind of joined that group
Right.
to yourself, not of outcast, but not joining the mainstream, like rebelling against that with the MS-13, going with other people that probably the minority. Would I say they were more the
Right.
minority or the okay?
That's a fact.
So you found some sort of restitution in being that voice or standing up against the majority of things.
Right.
Why do you think that is?
Because I had to grow up really fast, as I said. And I think, I mentioned this today. I think that the reason why most of us can't really kind of see eye to eye or can't really understand each other is because we are buried with, we have this beautifulness in us just buried beneath all of our pain and our unfortunate circumstances. I feel like a lot of us don't practice self-love and don't learn how to love ourselves. So if you don't know how to love yourself, as corny and cliche as it sounds, that saying, it is a fact. If you don't know how to love yourself, if you don't know how to water your seeds, how are you going to be able to do that for anybody else? We always kind of start projecting our insecurities onto others or our pain and our suffering. And I think that if we all really kind of understood that, this would be a better place. And I think I saw how people that were so insecure, and believe it or not, these beautiful like cheerleaders at the time, or
Mm-hmm.
even the girls that migrated here, that thought, that I didn't fit in with, because it's like, oh, you were born here, you don't know what life is like, in our countries. I would look at them like, you're so beautiful, I don't understand why you're living in your hardship, because when you live in your hardship, that's really the reason why you can't really look at other people and respect them, because you haven't figured out your hardship. So I learned what pain was at a very early age. I learned what deceit was at a very early age. And I think that I would see that people that had gone through it but didn't weren't able to like surpass it would be nasty to people that were more innocent. When you're an outcast, when you're like, nerdy, or you're gone, like you have like passions and love and you flow freely, you're a free spirit, as opposed to when you've seen pain, you look at life differently. You don't look at life the same anymore.
Sure, absolutely. So like I'm drawing a pretty, I think, solid picture, and I'll go out and limb and say a little bit that getting picked on at a young age and probably feeling voiceless, and that fear and that sadness and whatever you experience when you're getting bullied, to suddenly finding your strength, your voice, fighting, things like that, that you kind of
Right.
found that voice for other people that didn't discover their own voice yet, and you'd go in and
Yeah.
bat for them
I
because you
was
know how it
Captain.
feels.
I still am. I'm
You
still
still are.
Captain Save a Ho.
So it's I like that. So you found that this is why you probably don't like to be told what to do, because it happened to you so much when you're young. You know that you will just not put up with shit from people. So I get you. I understand that, and it's formed
That's
a
a
fire
fact.
within
Everybody
you.
could catch these hands, even you, Rocksteady.
I don't know. I wear my mouth guard. I'm wearing it right now. So if I have a lisp, they understand why. So I get you. So you know, people talk about spicy Latinas being fiery, right? If I'm right, over in the US, is that right?
Yes, that's a fact.
Uh, so I can sort of see that probably a lot of people have gone through similar sort of situations as you, coming from a hardship with their families that kind of shape them into this way that they are. It's like it's not that
Right.
you're born with that blood; it's that you have gone through a hell of a lot of shit. So it
That's a
forms
fact.
the person you are to be where you are today. So that's cool. Okay, so now we've got Fiery Millie. We've got that spicy Latina that's coming out, and you're
Ew.
fighting a little bit and sticking up for yourself. What sort of happens towards the rest of your high school days?
So, you know, I mentioned earlier that my parents were really strict, as you just said, and I used to play soccer. I made the varsity team. You know, I had a nice little booty, nice little abs. I had a little 4-pack. You know, I look good. I look good. So, I
And to the
started
day, I
like
must say.
liking. Right. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. You know, I started like liking this kid, having a crush. And my dad would always say, and this is true, as ancient and weird as it is, because you start having crushes, right, when you're young. Sometimes it is better, depending on your circumstances, not to really fall in love at a young age, because we're growing, you know, so it's like you're not really prepared for that. So my dad always used to say, you're too young, you know, don't think about relationships, you don't need that. That's why that was one of his things. Why do you need to shave your legs? You know, once you shave your legs, now you start looking a specific way, you start looking desirable to men. He would always tell me this, which is crazy, because that's why I lost my virginity to a girl, but that's another topic. Um, so,
Okay, we
you
will
know,
get
like
there.
he was really strict, super, super strict. So, um, unfortunately, one day I stayed late for practice, and I was with a kid, a guy. Um, and you know, like obviously I liked him, I wanted to hang out with him, so we stayed playing soccer at the park. And my dad was like, you know, very Salvadorian, like mad, like you need to follow the rules. And my mom was really like, where's your daughter? You see, you're too free with her. I told you not to let her play. My mom upset because she's, you know, studying for law, and she had probably just came back, and it's stressful for her to have to focus on school and have to, you know, do all the house mother work she had to do. I already had my little brother Junior, and I think Danny was already born too. Yeah, Danny was there. So it's like we already had you know, a full family, and I used to have chores. So right after soccer, I would have to go home and cook. I was in charge of dinner. I would have to do the dishes and make sure the kitchen was solid, clean, chairs pushed in and everything. Otherwise I would get my ass beat. One that day that I got, you know, came back home from practice late, my dad got really upset, and unfortunately he hit me to the point where I had lost a lot of blood and I had to go to the hospital. And DSS got involved. They took me away. They gave my parents a 51A, and I ended up in foster care. So now I moved to a new city, and there was no warning, like you know, and I didn't want to obviously like say what was wrong with me, but when I was practicing the next day, when I was in the field, I even wore like the warmers that you wear underneath the jerseys to cover like the belt marks. And when I was playing soccer, like I bled through a few of the scabs I had, and it was like a thin, like white type of creamyish type of color. And
Right.
so my coach was able to see lines and blood, and she like had asked me to see and take my shirt off, and I didn't want to. So the next day I go to school and it's hot, you know, and I'm wearing a long sleeve shirt. My coach had spoke to my teachers and told them what had happened to me, that what she has seen. I went to the nurse's office and they made me take off my shirt where they saw the belt marks. And they didn't let me even go home to grab my toothbrush. They just took me away immediately. And yeah, they put me in foster care.
How old were you when
It
that
was
happened?
crazy. I had just turned 15. Literally the week before, my parents had cut me a cake celebrating my 15th birthday.
So, so one question which you don't have to answer: did your dad used to? I mean, my dad used to belt us too when I was a kid. But did your dad used to belt you guys a lot when you were growing up for discipline?
No, my mom did. My
Or your mum?
mom was such an angry woman. We had a tough relationship with my mom. She was very, very strict, very OCD, diagnosed and all. Like everything had to be clean. My mother is a neat freak. Till this day, I won't tell her to come over unless my house is solid fucking clean because she'll complain. She's amazing though. I admire that because if it wasn't for her, I don't know. I have friends whose houses are like, ill bitch, like you're nasty. uh, you know, but shout out to her for that. Growing up, I hated it though. So she would be really the one that was strict and would hit me a lot. My dad only hit me twice, and when I was 7 because I was bullying a little Mexican girl because she was fat. And he beat the shit out of me because the little girl told her parents. Her parents told my dad. And he started paying attention and caught me once. And then the second was that time when he found out that this boy walked me home and he thought I had like lost my virginity or something. So it was pretty intense times.
Right. So you get whisked off real quick to a foster care home, a foster care, not a foster care home with another family, or is it like a foster care place with other
Yeah,
kids? Or
so initially, when they take you away before they find a permanent foster home for you, they send you to like a group home pretty much. And it was crazy. The first night was not good. It was predominantly Black kids, African American. And then you would see a few Hispanic and a few, from other ethnicities. But really, it was predominantly Black and some Hispanic kids in the foster home. And there, I learned a completely new lifestyle and culture. From there on, my
well,
life
hold
actually
up,
changed.
hold on. Like,
Yeah,
what was that? What was that first night like? I mean, you didn't get
it
a
was
chance to go home and get your
different.
toothbrush. You said, and like, how were you feeling towards your parents being moved from
I
home?
felt
What did
bad.
you think was going to
I
happen?
felt bad.
Yeah.
No, I knew I wasn't going home. They made that very clear. They made it very clear. I already knew. So this is the thing, right? When you're growing up, you know about all of this shit. Like when you grow up in the hood, like your parents tell you, if you ever tell them in school that I beat the shit out of you, they're gonna take you away. So that's why I didn't want them to see like what I had. It was obvious that I was hit with a belt. And I was an innocent little girl, like even though I was already like kind of like gang banging or whatever, I was really innocent to several things. And I knew that they would take me away. Part of me was sick of it. Like I said, I had a really nasty relationship with my mother. And I also kind of just didn't really know what to do. And I kind of gave in. I think I could have not let them see, but they bought me new everything. I didn't have to go home. Literally, they took me away at 11 in the morning. They dismissed me from school. When they file a 51A against your parents, the government officially has custody of you. So they brought me the social worker. We went to like Walmart. She bought me a toothbrush, pajamas, clothes for, like a few days, and brought the clothes and that and brought me to a foster home. I cried. I didn't eat for like 4 days. It was really depressing, especially because the girls didn't like me. They would rip my clothes, those bitches.
Right.
Later on, I became super cool with a few of them, but I went through a really hard time when I joined foster care system. And one of my friends, her name's Awilda. Shout out to Awilda, the freaking Puerto Rican. She, her mother She lived in the projects, and in that same neighborhood, the school I went to. She was the first girl I made friends. Like, boom, super cool. Um, I had just known this girl for a week, and she decided to ask her mom to apply to be a foster parent, that they would pay her. She convinced her. Her mother said yes, and I got to live with that family in the projects of Everett, Massachusetts. And that was my home for the next 18 months while my parents did
Right.
anger management. And we went through a case where my father actually almost got locked up. They had to spend like $40,000 on lawyers. It was pretty crazy.
Back then too, which is a lot of money, you know.
Mm. Hell yeah, it's a lot of money.
Yeah. Um, okay, so what sort of contact could you have with your parents from that point until when? Like when you did you next speak
No
or see your
contact.
parents?
Unfortunately, I wasn't able to see my parents for like 6 months. And I would see my brother in school, and he wouldn't speak to me. It was really sad. So I went from like my best friend to not being able to talk to him because my parents didn't want him talking to me. Um, and it was definitely difficult. Finally, through like 6 months in, we started doing therapy all together. It was a requirement in order for him to, for his probation, and for them to be able to get my custody back. So we all started going to family therapy, which was fucking crazy. God bless that therapist. There was a
um,
lot of fucking crazy shit going on in that fucking building, let me tell you.
what was it like the first time you were able to speak to your parents and lay eyes on them again in that counseling meeting?
Oh, my parents were. See, this is why I'm spicy, because they're spicy too. They didn't give a fuck. They were like, fuck you, you fucking bitch. You just made us pay mad money. I'm pretty sure if they could have beat my ass again, they would have. But my father's a very emotional guy. He's a hardworking, great man. I love my father to death. Just saying my father gives me like these chest pains, like feel a knot in my throat, because I love that man. He was the one that really made therapy uh, just a healing process for both of us. And I already knew that he didn't mean to hit me, and I knew he was under a lot of stress, and my mom was pushing him, and it was a very difficult time for my parents as well. They were not really getting along the best, so it was a tough time. And I mean, he just made he opened up about his pains. And like I said, that's why I learned at a very early age about understanding your feelings better, about not getting bitter when you have rejection, about learning how to really use it and embrace it and say rejection is my friend. This person is going through this because, or they're treating me a specific way. My mother's upset right now, she's stressed, my dad is. So we started kind of learning and revealing what we felt. And yeah, it was a healing, amazing experience from then on.
So I just want to rewind a little bit now. So your grandparents, your mum's parents and your dad's parents
Mhm.
separately, can you tell me what their parents were like with them when they were growing up? Do you know?
Yeah, so my mom, she has an absent father. And then, my grandmother was very absent as well, but because she used to be an alcoholic from my mom's side. Um, so my mom actually grew up with her uncle. Her uncle used to take care of her. Her uncle is actually the one who sold property so that she could come to the United States during the Civil War. Her uncle left her property when he passed away. She used to call him father. Um, so that's that with grandparents. And then with my dad was actually the bastard child. My grandmother, she lost her virginity to this guy who was a total asshole because he was married and had a whole separate life in the capital of El Salvador. And my
Right.
grandmother was a 16-year-old that took care of the storefront for my great grandfather, who owns a lot of property in the village where we're from. This is the family that's really close to their tribe still, and I know a lot, because of my dad's side of the family. The village where we're from, we own like the water source, the water supply for the village.
Mm-hmm.
So my grandmother used to do a lot of like the front store stuff, and the guy was an owner of a company that came to pick up water and came to pick up milk from the cows, and they had a lot of farmland. So my grandmother lost her virginity to this man, got pregnant with my dad, and later finds out that he was never going to take her to the capital. That she just left her pregnant. So unfortunately, this man, actually, my grandfather, later got killed when my dad was 2 years old by another man whose wife
Oh,
he had sex with.
wow.
So I don't know much about him. So my dad grew up in El Salvador with my grandmother and my great grandmother and my great grandfather. And
Mm.
they were very, so my great grandmother was really like the tribe, like bloodline. We're said to come from bloodlines of Aztecs, and later they ran from the Spanish colonists, moved to Central America, and built a life in that village. And their tribe name was different. I'd have to look it up. I was Lele, I think it's called. I have to look it up.
Mm-hmm.
But she was very like tribe oriented. But my great grandfather was very like evangelical, strict, more like the Spaniard influenced in the village. So hence why we own the water supply of the village, right?
Okay.
So even though that they did own that, they lived very like poor means. They like very humble means, I guess. My great grandfather didn't, he was taught that money was nothing. He would give money away to people. He would loan, he supposedly loan money. But in El Salvador, it's always been tough. It's a third world country. So he never saw that money, to the point to where when he died, he had no money left. Including, the water supply had been sold, and we later had to rebuy for shit ton of fucking money. But it was a very humble beginning, and he was very strict. My father would get hit with the belt. He was not allowed to even play soccer. He had to play soccer hiding from my great grandfather, because my great grandfather would tell him, we don't have time for that. You need to work. You need to work because you need to save money to move to get yourself to the United States. My great grandfather was strict in the sense that you're a man and you have to learn how to earn a living. So my dad used to wake up at 4 a.m. every day, go, get the cows, milk them, bring the milk to the storefront where my grandmother used to, sell it to a new person at this point, I'm sure, because obviously her ex-lover was dead. Um, and she used to run the storefront. My dad was young. After that, my dad used to have to walk like 10 miles to school because the nearest school was 10 miles away. Now they have schools in the area. My dad's actually one of the founders of the school. But yeah, like, this is all because of being able to chase the American dream. Other than that, over there was like very humble, very strict beginnings. Their parents were, my dad's great grandparents and his mom were very strict when they lived out there. But again, it was like my grandmother was there, but no matter how old you are, they always teach us in our culture, like your parents are always like the boss, especially out there. Even they live together, especially a single mother. She had to live with her father, so he grew up with very strict old school tendencies.
Sure, and I think they really did back then. Gosh, the story you just said there is so similar to my mum's father, my
Right.
grandfather from my mum's side. Same thing. He had to walk through the snow in Italy because with no shoes, like miles to get to school because he wasn't allowed to ruin his shoes with the snow because they had no money. And
Oh
it's just
shit.
it's bizarre how this same sort of hardships in different ways, but like it's just fascinating for me. Okay, so let's go
I
back
didn't
to
even know
then
it snowed in Italy. How ignorant am I?
up the north it did, yeah.
I don't know why I'm
um,
like, oh shit, it snows in Italy. Uh-huh.
oh, good. So you're back at the foster home now. Your
Yes.
first night was terrible. You didn't eat for the first 4 days. Excuse me.
Yeah.
And then what was the experience like in the 18 months? Or you went at the home, that foster place for 18 months. You found a home with your friend that you made, right? So you got to live with them. But so in a place where you're still the minority again, you've kind of found your fire. Were you getting into trouble there? Were there fights going on? I imagine that this
Yes.
place was full of people that were coming from broken homes as well, right? That's why they've been taken away from their
That's a
parents, put
fact.
into this place. So what was that like?
Right. It was great. I was right at home. At first, it's kind of like you have to prove yourself. You know what I mean? Because at this point, like, I again, there was a lot of competition. Girls, always kind of dislike me for some reason. I get that a lot in the beginning, but then I'm just irresistible and they just love me to death. But I tend to want some of the best relationships I've had has actually been with people who we didn't really get along. It tends to just I think, I don't know, I think us women need to definitely learn how to really empower ourselves, not this fake like empowerment. A lot of bitches be like, oh, that's my girl, we're cool, and then they pick up the phone, like like they show in the movies. That shit is real life. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
that shit is real life. So I had to kind of prove myself, got into a few fights, and when they see that you could scrap, they're not trying to be about the smoke. They want you on their side. So I
Sure.
very quickly earned my respect, and I kind of felt like top dog. And like I said, I really kind of I had my crew. Little by little, the crazy part is that the people that I used to live with, thanks to gentrification, they had to also leave East Boston, and they started moving to these places. So like little by little, life was getting better because my friends were moving closer and closer. And it's like, having your friends around you, it's like you feel like Tony Montana, like you're on top of the world. uh,
Sure.
so it's like life became so much easier. I started working at a pizza shop. I was making money, cash, under the table.
Sure. Sure.
Because that's the only place you can actually like work long hours. And when I started making money, it was a different world for me. I fell in love with money.
So this is when you left school and started working, or I would kind
Yes.
of want to know.
No, no, no.
Um,
So I'm in the foster home, in school, and I'm working.
okay, cool. Well, that's good, keeping you busy
Mm.
then. And what sort of kids were you hanging out with there primarily? Because you've tend to go for the minorities because that's maybe where you felt you
Right.
came from and you're empowered. Was there a minority group that you're hanging around that become the majority, or what happened there?
Yeah. In the projects, it was like predominantly Black, Puerto Rican, and Dominican. So that was all I was surrounded by. And, you we have a lot of good looking people in our community. So yeah, I definitely, I just, it was a new lifestyle for me because I didn't even know what the fuck a curfew or allowance was. My parents didn't give me no fucking allowance, but the foster mom did because they would give her money for my allowance. So every month I would get $200. I was like, what the fuck, this is amazing. Like, you know what
Mm.
I mean?
Yeah.
um uh, I used to be able to go out after school, and I was able to come home. I had to be home by 7 p.m. on game nights. I used to have to be home at 9 p.m. unless we played an away game. But like I was playing sports. I had a good group of friends. I was popular. I was beautiful, popular. They didn't have cheerleaders where I went. What the fuck is a cheer? We don't got no. Nah, they did have cheerleaders, but it was like they weren't snobby, and we all got along. We blended in well with everybody. It was a dope experience. At this point, I'm living in Malden, Massachusetts.
Okay, so life's coming pretty good at this point in time then.
Yes, life started getting good for sure. I'm still getting into fights because I'm spicy and I have a mouth.
Hmm.
So I'm still getting into fights. I'm skipping school just because
Well, that's
I don't even
ingrained in
know
you
what
now,
else.
right? That's ingrained from
What is
when you found it to empower yourself from the sort of place that you came from and all that. That's like part of your character now. It's like you ain't gonna take
That's a
shit from
fact.
no one,
That's my
you know. So
identity. Yeah.
it happens from time to time just to not to, I guess, not to feed your ego, but just it's just kind of part of where you came from. It's like what you stand up for within
That's a
yourself, I
fact.
guess. Yep.
Right.
Um,
No
so you
fugazi over
mentioned
here. You know what fugazi means?
Fugazi. It's not real. Is that right?
Yeah.
Fugazi.
Oh, it's
Yes.
okay then,
I
Rocksteady.
told you I'm Italian. I might be
Let
in
me
Australia, but I
find
know what's going
out.
on.
Okay
I know
then.
the score.
That's
I
the
know the
fuck
score,
I'm
baby.
talking about. He's like, I ain't no bitch. I know what's up.
Okay. And I want to clap that up for everyone that I knew Fugazi. Come on, I'm Italian. So
Yeah.
basically
Clap it up for
you
Rocksteady, you guys. You know what fugazi is. No fugazi over
you
here.
no Fugazi. You mentioned earlier that you lost your virginity to a woman. Was it around this
Yeah.
sort of period somewhere?
So,
I should say
to
period of
me,
time.
I would say, damn, how come everybody clapped it up for that, for the virginity question? Maybe it's slow or something, the algorithm or whatever.
Slow clap, yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah.
so I always say I lost my virginity when I was 16 because that's when I first had like sex with a man. But I lost my virginity when I was 14 to a girl because she was able to sleep over my house. She was my neighbor. And, we did the nasties or whatever.
Sure. Was it? Are you bisexual? Was that just a curiosity thing as a kid
Yes,
at the
I
time?
am bisexual till this day,
Okay.
but I kind of think I'm done with the girl stuff. I've had fun and I'm trying to get some kids in me, and my biological clock is ticking.
Fair one. So,
But you never
so
know.
your
Love is love. You don't know who you could fall in
love
love
is
with.
love. You don't know exactly. You can't pick who you love. It just happens sometimes. So,
Right, but I'm looking for some. Yeah, you already know.
yes, she's looking for a solid man. She wants to have baby. She's getting clucky. Anyone out there that's single?
Well,
So hit up
yeah,
Millijay
yeah,
with your profile and your resume.
right. Ow.
So you lost your virginity to when you were about 16 to a man.
Yeah,
Even though a woman at 14, but you had your first
yeah.
phallus at 16, I should say, right? So what
Right,
was?
right.
I want to ask what the experience was like. Was he someone that you first fell for? Was that like a curious thing? Was it a fling? Was it a long
No,
term relationship from there?
no, this motherfucker chased me. So I met him when I still lived with my parents. I was 14 years old. Um, and he used to go to my games. He was 17. He was a senior in high school. I told you I had made the freshman varsity team. So I was cool with a lot of the seniors because a lot of the girls were seniors. And a lot of the, boys took the bus with us. So I met him in the bus. And, like I said, I still lived at home. So I couldn't shave my legs. And I used to see like my little hairs on like, because you have the cool thing about soccer, right, is that the socks go all the way up to your knees. But I still had a little peach fuzz, and fuzz on my legs. So like I used to be super embarrassed, and he would always want to sit with me, and I used to hate it. I used to be super shy before, because when you don't feel comfortable in your own skin, you tend to be a little shy. And when somebody breaks that shell, you're like, shit, I'm fucking dope. I didn't even know how dope I was. Sorry me for not knowing how dope I was. But so then he graduated, and I went through the shit that I went through his senior year. He wanted me to go to prom, and I was like, no, hell no. Like I'm going through too much right now. I didn't want a relationship. I was kind of like, just in that hustle work mentality. I was kind of depressed, and I've always kind of found refuge in my work, I would say, till this day. That's the main thing. Like whenever you see me go through a hardship, I use it to have like a comeback, because I always say everybody loves a motherfucking comeback. It's like a survival of the fittest type of mentality that I've grown to just love. And sometimes it's good to learn through others' experiences, but I'm the type of bitch that learns when she knocks her teeth on the ground, and I love that. I love that journey for me, like Mo says. Mo camps. It's helped me out, till this day. So I didn't want a relationship. And then when I turned 16 that summer, so I turned 16 in March, that summer he was already graduated. He would take me to all of my soccer practices, and I gave up the goods.
You opened the golden gates. Good for you.
Yeah, it was very
And just
romantic
to elaborate.
too. You know, I had like a
Oh,
dream
nice.
come true type of lost my virginity with candles and everything.
Oh, beautiful. So he was still young. So you were 16. He was what, 17 or something, or
He was
18?
18. He was
18.
18. Yeah, he
Yep.
had graduated. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. Just what you said before, which is a great saying that I heard from Mr. Bombastic on this app from his dad, his father from Rwanda, said, a setback is a setup for a comeback. And I think it's a really great saying that I heard him say. And that it's
I
true. Every
love it.
time you set back, it's the setup for another comeback. So that's definitely what you
That's a
do,
fact.
if I can't say along this story for sure. So
Thank you.
he's your first love then?
Yes, that was my puppy love. He definitely made me suffer, let me tell you. He
Well,
was
let you tell
actually
me. Let's
really
go.
involved. Yeah, he was really involved in like the gang. He was like a big leader in the gang, and he's the main reason why I kind of got a little bit more involved and at the time. And again, this is not new information. There is a whole article about my lifestyle and life, and you know, I wasn't the best teenager. I used to do a lot of crazy shit because I was involved with a leader of a gang. You know, we used to steal cars, like crazy shit when I was young. I was there. You know, I didn't necessarily do it myself, but I was there. I was around the crazy shit, and you know, although it was, we used to do a lot of stupid shit like that at that point with him. You know, I would say that when he got locked up, it taught me a lot. Like I kind of changed a lot. I saw he's locked up. A lot of my friends that summer got locked up. This is like 2 years later. And I realized like, fuck, I could be next. I'm not trying to get locked up. So, you know, I had stopped working at the pizza shop and made cash money other ways. And I decided I need to snap the fuck out of it. I don't want to end up, you know, locked up as well. So I got myself a job at Dunkin' Donuts, and I worked at Dunkin' Donuts for the next few years.
Okay. Just to rewind to two different points, I want you to, it's the same question for two different ages. When you were young at school, in your primary school, what did you think you wanted to aspire to be when you got older? And also fast forwarding back to the point where you're in foster care at the time, what did you aspire at that point? Was it the same thing? Was it nothing? What was it like for you? What did you think you wanted to be when you grew up for work and career?
A drug dealer.
When you
Just
that's when
kidding.
you were in foster home
I'm
as a
just kidding.
teenager?
No. I just wanted to say that because I wanted to see your reaction. But no. So when
Did my
I
avatar
was,
move?
so my avatar's not moving right now. I don't know why.
No, it is. It's actually, in
But
fact, I'll give you a proper compliment there. Your avatar moves the best out of anyone. As you speak, it just slightly nods forward and to the side perfectly. It looks more 3D than other people's. I'm not even kidding. That's not
I
me.
love
That's
it.
not my avatar hitting on your avatar. That's just
Yeah. Oh,
a
I feel
observation.
totally hit it on, but it's totally okay. I
I
got
can
a
see
sexy
blushing.
Abby, and I look like my avatar too. I look like my avatar. I'm just saying.
So do I.
Yeah, I know a lot of bitches out here don't look like their avatar, but I do.
Perfect. So yeah, teenager, and also as a kid, you know, let's just go to the first part in primary school first. Really not knowing what was to come in the future, being a little bit rebellious, some hardship. What did you want to be? Did you want to like fulfill anything for your parents or for yourself, or did you not see a future at that point?
No, so before you know, DSS custody, I wanted to be a professional soccer player. Like there was no doubt in my mind because I grew up around soccer. My father loved soccer. He's played soccer. He used to breathe soccer. Soccer was, you know, continues till this day to be a very big deal for our family. We were very depressed when Messi left. I kept seeing the talk on here on stereo, and I'm like, damn, I want to have this talk so bad, but I don't know who I could have it with.
Let's do
But
it.
we're big Barcelona fans here still, you know, with or without Messi. But you know, soccer was everything. So I wanted to be a professional soccer player. I aspired to be that. And you know, then after DSS custody, I really like I thought I was going to be an engineer because my math teachers were always on me. Like, you need to be an engineer. You need to be an engineer. But then when I started working at Dunkin' Donuts, I wanted to be in banking because I used to just like see the girls that worked at the bank, and I'm like, they look like money, you know? So I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I want to be in banking. But life had another path for me. It was pretty interesting.
Okay. So you're working at Dunkin' Donuts. Is this what split you and your boyfriend at the time up because he was in prison, or did that carry on when he got out?
Nah, I held him down. I held him and the block down while he was away. Yeah, no, that didn't. He actually fucked my cousin, that piece of shit. So we broke up.
Was that your first heartbreak then?
Yes. Oh my God. I used to listen to all the sad fucking music, all of it, all the sad music you could think of, especially like Los Temerarios. It's a Hispanic band. It's like, como te recuerdo, amor, si tú supieras cuánto te. Okay, I suck at singing. Anyways, but yeah, so I used to listen to a lot of breakup, fucking sad music and shit. But yeah, that was my first heartbreak in high school, and then I'm like, I'm a savage. Fuck that shit. I'm never falling in love again.
And then how long was it until you did again?
Like 6 months.
Hard ass bitch. Yeah, that's right.
It was like 6 months later, I was in love already. You're like, fuck this guy. He was a piece of shit anyways. Who cares? And it was like, I always needed to be like with the tougher batter. So I got with a guy that was like his enemy. They hated each other's guts. To the point where it sucked because they actually ended up locked up, both of them together at one point.
Shit,
but
they
shout out
battled
to
it out.
my first love, you know, shout out to him, because if I could call him up right now, shout out to him and his wife, you know, she knows what time it is, like, we're cool. If I could call him right now and be like, this person is harassing me, like, you know, my neighbor is being a piece of shit, and he will come take care of the business for me no matter what.
Oh, that's good. It's good.
Yeah,
I tend
we're
to be
cool
friends
now.
with...
I forgave him.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's all in the past, right? All kids learning
Right.
experience. But
We were kids, yeah.
Yeah. So you're hitting your 20s around about this
Not
time
yet.
too? So you're 18 then?
Yeah, I'm 18. And I get fired from Dunkin' Donuts for spitting on somebody's coffee, and they caught it on camera.
Hey, and you cut out then for spitting in someone's coffee and what?
And they caught it on camera.
Oh, god damn. Oh, shit. Not do you want any sugar with that? Do you want some phlegm with that? Yeah, right.
Yeah, this fucking bitch that worked for Massport, I hated her guts. I used to work at the Boston Logan Airport Dunkin' Donuts, and she's like, you added too much sugar to my coffee. So I made her a new one, and I that shit.
Jesus Christ.
And the bitch knew, because she's the one who told my boss, can you look at the cameras, please?
Oh, wow. And then what? Like, you just sacked on the spot, eh?
I got fucking fired. I tried going into my next shift the next day, and my badge was deactivated. I couldn't get through TSA. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean my badge doesn't work? I get the fuck out of here. I work here. And then I was really cool with this guy, Chris, who was one of the managers for a currency exchange company. I told him I had gotten fired. He's like, I have a friend. You know, I've been telling, because he would always come by. You know, I worked at Dunkin' Donuts. Everybody came to get their fucking coffee. Sure. So it's not just the people that are boarding, right? It's everybody who works at the fucking airport. So, and I used to switch terminals. I used to like hustle my way into all Dunkin' Donuts, because when you're in high school, they only allow you to work X amount of hours. And yes, at 18 years old, I was still in high school because I had dropped out like twice. Yeah, but that's another story. I dropped out of school because I was gangbanging and shit, stupid stuff. But, you know, I couldn't work that many hours. So I would get a job at a different Dunkin' Donuts who had a different owner, because they're franchises. So I was able to work, you know, another 12 hours with this Dunkin' Donuts. So I actually worked at three different Dunkin' Donuts, but they all fucking fired me because they all told each other what had happened, motherfuckers. Sure, so I told Chris, I'm
how
like,
dare them
I'm fucking
tell
fired.
each other.
I don't have a job anymore. And he's like, what did you do? And I was honest with him, and he's like, you know what? That's what I love about you, Jackie. Come tomorrow. I'm going to give you a job. You're going to work for me. So I have seen the money from all over the world. I worked at a currency exchange company, and I worked there for 6 months until I went and started doing recruiting.
Okay. So backtrack slightly. I want to go a little bit back to your gangbang days. Tell me how you got stabbed in the leg.
All right. So, one of my friends, he had, he had gotten locked up, and it's crazy because he's actually locked up again now, and he called me earlier. His fucking BM who stabbed me in the leg, that fucking bitch. We're cool now though, but she stabbed me in the leg, that hoe. He was dad, and she wasn't trying to let him. Still same fucking shit. They've been together for 20 fucking plus years. These fucking crazy motherfuckers. And I went over and I caught her cheating on him. So I just literally, the bitch was naked. I started swinging at her, and she didn't know. He told me where like a key he had hidden. I went in. This bitch just took out a knife and stabbed me in the fucking leg. And the guy she was fucking with was a whole little bitch, because he called the cops, and then all 3 of us got arrested. Shit was crazy.
He called the cops? Fuck.
I was like, what the fuck? All 3 of us got arrested, and they took the kids away. It was really bad, but that's how I got stabbed in the leg. Yep, they brought me to the hospital, and then they put me in a cell.
How old were you then?
I was 17 years old at the time.
Right. And you said they put you in jail for that temporarily until you got charged or something like that, or?
Yeah, it was for the weekend. I got out Sunday. It's not like jail. It was like a fucking holding facility in Southie. Like, they still book you, but they don't put you in general population. They just kind of book you. And a warden, the fucking asshole, I guess, had a graduation, so he couldn't come out to so I could get bailed out. My poor dad, he slept in the car all Saturday, didn't go to work, and waited Sunday morning. He was able to bail me out. He was there with my best friend when I got out. And I'll never forget, my mom came, and she was like, this is what you fucking get for being in the streets. She's like, I'm leaving you here. And then I had to wait till, she obviously told my dad, and my dad's like, what? You left her there? If my mom would have bailed me out, I wouldn't have. That experience was by far the scariest fucking shit. So I did forget to mention, at this point, I'm back home, because they did everything they had to do, the anger management classes and all that shit. So I went and I moved back home. So her ass left me there, and I was scared, because they were like, hey, if the warden doesn't come, by Monday, if they don't have room in court, we're gonna have to take you in the morning to go and pretty much register you to the jail and put you in general population. So I was shitting my fucking pants. I was like, I am not trying to go to fucking jail. That shit was scary as fuck. I actually got into some other trouble that I'm like, I wasn't even as scary getting, as close to getting locked up as this experience was. But my dad waited. He got me out of jail, and I went to work the next day.
Right. So this is kind of after the counselling meetings have been going on prior, the 18 months prior.
Yeah, this was after. I used to actually, my mother and I were the only ones that the therapist said we still had to continue therapy. My brothers and my dad were good.
Right.
And we ended up having to go to like anger management courses. They just made me more angry, Rocstedi. I don't recommend anger management courses.
I think that's totally defeating the purpose of them, but they need to know how to do their job a bit better then.
That's a fact. It really depends on who you get. That's a fact.
So when did your relationship with your parents start to get better? Because, I mean, you talk so highly of them right now. It sounded rough as a kid, and I know it's all out of love, but what these things were done. So it's just sometimes funny how we express it all. But you sound close to your parents now. You talk highly of them. What point did that start to turn around? Look, I'm the same. I think,
Right. I would say it really started turning around when I became independent. So my parents, a year later, after all this drama we were going through, they separated. They got a divorce. And And so there was a lot more peace because they used to argue a lot. So I kind of got a little more respect for both of them because they didn't live together. I lived with my father. I stayed with him. And my brother, who's about to be 30, also stayed with my dad. And the two little ones left with my mom. Um, and so I kind of started getting along with my mom more because we didn't live together. So that was a little bit easier. And I kind of had to prove myself, because I ended up graduating or getting an actual high school diploma in 2010 instead of 2007 when I was supposed to graduate. I was class of '07. So I'll never forget, like, I saw the principal of the school, one of the high schools I used to go to, and he was like, "What? You didn't get it?" He put me in an online program, helped me get my diploma. I kind of earned my parents' respect for that. They kind of had given up on me. I think they thought I was just going to be a gang banging loser, who just worked at Dunkin' Donuts or a bank, currency exchange company. So like little by little, once when I started doing recruiting really changed my fucking life because I was still very heavily involved in like the gang type of life. But recruiting really enabled me to the financial freedom I needed to feel independent. There's no better feeling than having money in your fucking pocket, being able to buy whatever the hell you want. And recruiting allowed me to be able to do that. So I think that's when they started earning my respect. I mean, I bought my first house when I was 23 years old with my brother. 23 going on 24. My brother and I bought our first home. Um, and obviously my father was super proud of us. He helped us out, and slowly but surely, that's how we started really kind of, getting, and I started learning the difficulty of survival and how difficult the world is. And, I understood my parents more. I understood their sacrifices more. I understood living with just my dad and my brother, why my mom used to be such a bitch, because they were pigs. You know what I mean? Like, there's just so much that I started understanding and seeing it from her eyes. As a woman, I used to kind of hold this anger because, like I said, she's a lawyer in her country. So she used to travel a lot, and school was cheaper over there. And she wanted to run for Congress, so she wanted to go to school over there. And she busted her ass off, but she was very absent. So I felt like, you don't even know me as your daughter. You have no idea who I am. You don't know my personality. We struggle a little bit till this day. I love her to death. That's my mother. But I feel like it's still kind of hard. We have like a sister, superficial sister type of relationship where it's like, my mom's sexy. I don't know if you've seen my mom, but I'll post a picture of her later. She's a sexy woman. She's gorgeous. She is 48 years old and she looks amazing. So we've always kind of like, I used to wear her clothes. We used to fight over that. So not living together kind of like separated a lot of problems. And then her seeing how hard I work. She's an entrepreneur. She has a nonprofit as well, to help immigrant children, and then minority communities around the Boston area, especially during this pandemic. But she's been doing this for over 20 years, and I was around that environment. I do all the protests and multicultural festivals. We work really closely with the city and the state, and different state, the diaspora here in the United States. La diaspora del Salvador. So I admired that. I started seeing like, wow, my mom, she learning where she came from. Same thing with my dad, where they came from a village where it was really poor, and they were able to come to the United States. And I don't know what it is to struggle. We didn't have money and I had to wear like the Fadidas that had 4 lines because they were broke, so they were from Payless. And I could have gotten bullied for all that shit, but at the end of the day, I understood why. It's very rare. The only reason I have Yeezys is because my fucking ex bought them for me. Otherwise, I would not. I don't spend money on shit that's unnecessary. I don't really care for, name brand things. Like anything I have, Gucci, whatever I have, that's fucking Louis V. I didn't buy that shit because I am not about that life. I don't mind buying a cheap little $15 Burlington Coat Factory bag. I can make that shit look fire.
I respect that actually. I really like that. Um, okay, so you said you're recruiting. Recruiting what exactly? I'm not sure.
So I started off by recruiting labor professionals. So like I used to work for a company called True Blue Inc., now known as Labor Ready, now known as True Blue Inc. True Blue Inc. was the big chain before, and it had 4 different areas. And they had like electrical, labor, and then they had like trucking and something else. So I used to, send people to warehouses, factories. I used to send them to construction sites, and I learned the industry there in the at Labor Ready, True Blue Inc. And from there, I moved to doing like customer service jobs, so white collar industry. I worked for a company that it's called Panther Global Group now. It used to be owned by a Costa Rican guy. And it was a small staffing agency. And there we used to staff for all call centers nationwide, call centers for health insurance, which the health insurance companies of the state are actually ran by a company called Maximus. I don't know if you've heard of them. They're a company that really takes advantage of their employees. But anyways, I started recruiting for them, doing that. And then a year later, I went to start doing human resources, everything from an HR assistant all the way up to a CHRO, so Chief of Human Resources. And then everything in between, like, employee relations, talent acquisition, doing all of the compensation, all of the jobs that you have in between, employee relations, generalist, etc. And I started doing HR. I've specialized in doing HR for the majority of my time. I would say in 2015, I started working for a company called BFS Associates, where I started doing executive staffing. So I like this because this is where I really fell in love and said, shit, I need to do this for myself, And then in 2017, I started my own staffing firm, and then take on jobs that I can't refuse because they're so good, like they'll call me recruiters, they'll recruit recruiters, of course, that's what I used to do. So even though I run my own firm, sometimes they'll call me from a company, like the most recent one I worked for, Genzabar, which, was crazy busy during the pandemic. I worked throughout the entire pandemic. We used to, they are still in business. So they do, software the software they do is for schools, so that you can take online courses. And also they have systems where the schools, can also pay employees. They have payroll, human resource databases, etc. So I worked with them for 2 years, where I staffed a shit ton of engineers and also built their executive team from the ground up. There was a lot of baby boomers that were retiring, so they brought me in. They gave me an offer I couldn't refuse. In the meantime, I also still did my business, and so I was doing both staffing, executives and the software engineers, and then staffing human resource professionals and executives through my own company.
Wow, that's like amazing. So like, congratulations to you for like taking the bull by the
Thank
horns
you.
there, and really just succeeding in that market. Like, it's amazing to hear. Like, so what you must now understand what it takes to be successful, right? So success is a really dedicated,
It's a
difficult thing that I
motherfucking
think a
hard
lot of
job.
exactly. Don't think people really understand what it takes to be successful. Success is something that you really got to dedicate, focus on with everything you've got. It takes a lot of your attention, time, all your focus. I mean, you sort of become hyper focused on that task, right, to be successful, and you live it and breathe it until you reach that moment, which it sounds like you've achieved. What would you say to the young you if you could go back, knowing what it took to get there today, as a child that maybe didn't even, you said drug dealer before as a joke of what you want to aspire to be. You wouldn't have even probably imagined or dreamt of doing something like this at the time. But what sort of advice would you take to your young self to reach where you are today if you were taking that wrong track and gangbanging? Where would you intercept, and what would you say?
I know this sounds like super fake, even through all the shit that I said I went through, but I wouldn't change anything I've gone through for the world, including, more importantly, I would never change the game banging aspect of my life. Reason being is because, again, I was able to understand, and I love sociology for that reason. I was able to understand people and their pain and why they made the decisions that they made in life. I was able to have street smart. You can't teach, the school of hard knocks. You have to go through it. You can't just get a piece of paper because you memorize some shit. You have to really fucking learn how to live life. You have to really go through the fucking struggle. If it wasn't for the struggle, I wouldn't be so astute, I think is the word, astuta.
Yeah,
That's how you
astute.
say it
Yeah.
in Spanish. Yeah, I wouldn't be, I feel like I wouldn't have that like quickness, that wittiness to me. So for that reason, like I wouldn't change a thing. I think it is through pain that we grow. It's through those difficult obstacles we face that make us a better person. You can't be hiding behind, a fucking bubble. Like you have to be able to go out there and experience life. So even though I could have saved myself a lot of money and heartbreak, and I would definitely not change a thing. If I really, really had to change a thing, I guess it was try not to get arrested because it costs a lot of money.
I may have worded that wrong a little bit. Sorry. Not what would you change, but like I think what advice would you give to yourself to give yourself inspiration
Oh,
as
I
a
think you
child,
did
right?
say advice. I'm just kind of stoned. I would definitely again that maybe kind of keep your hands to yourself a little bit more. Even right before the pandemic, I got myself into some trouble, getting into a fight at the club that was unnecessary with my ratchet ass. And it cost me like $12,000 for a fucking lawyer. So, I think that's definitely the advice that I would give myself is at the end of the day, learn how to keep your fucking hands to yourself because it could get you in a lot of trouble.
Okay, excellent. We're kind of getting to the pointy end of the podcast now. I want to ask a couple of questions. What's the one time in your life that you can remember that maybe you really let your dad down, that he was upset or disappointed with you?
So fuck. But yeah, I mean, I could mention this, I guess. So I had told you that he slept in his car and I had gotten arrested and I had said to him, I'm never gonna do this again. Um, like 2 months later, right before I turned 18 years old, it was actually November 19th, I'll never forget. I was drinking Henny Black. I don't know if you ever heard of it. It's like a black Hennessy bottle.
Mm-hmm.
It gets you fucked up. I blacked out, and I was outside. Actually, no, I wasn't 17. My bad. I was 19. It was a few years before. I was already 18. I was a few months before I turned 19. Um, I got myself into a big situation where when I was blacked out, the cops came. So, when the cops came to that party, um, I was passed out and they were trying to wake me up aggressively, like pushing me. So I didn't know it was a cop. I'm drunk. I'm fucking blacked out. I punched the cop in the face. Then another cop comes. I fight him. I got into a fight with cops. So I was really scared. I was facing time, like some serious time. So my father, let me borrow a lot of money. I paid him everything back, I swear. Again, recruiting has helped me out a lot with all of this. And he was so disappointed. I saw the disappointment in his eyes. He was like, "You fucked up again. Like you're never gonna change." I was 19 and I was already doing recruiting. So even though I had a great job and he was happy that he saw me dressing up, he was like, "You're still like a hood bitch. You need to get this stupid shit out of you, or you're never going to succeed in life. You put hands on everybody. You hit authorities," and he's just like, he didn't understand. Like, Dad, I was fucked up. You know what I mean? He was so disappointed, and I think ever since then I really did try my best to measure and keep that advice I said that I would give my younger self, because it just got me in a lot of trouble. And he was just really disappointed. He didn't talk to me for a whole year, even though he paid for the lawyer.
Okay. And now over to your mum. What was one of the moments you can profoundly remember that your mum was proud of you? Like a moment where you really realized that that was a moment that she was like super proud to have you as a daughter and do those things. Yeah.
When I was 23, I became the warden for the city of Revere. So I used to be in charge of a voting booth. And she's super into politics, and all the old people from the city. They were like, "Oh my God, Jackie!" Everybody was. I was in the in the news as the first Latina of the city to become a warden for one of the voting booths. So, wow, I remember her being very happy. Like I'll never forget that.
You slightly cut out just that last 2-3 seconds there. So she saw you and she was pretty happy, I think you said.
Yeah. I think you're cutting off,
Okay.
Rocstedi, not me.
Oh, is it me? Uh-oh. Okay. That's it. Hopefully that internet's okay now. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, yeah, I can hear it.
Okay. All right. So right. So up to modern day now, that's kind of where we're at right now. I don't know if I've missed anything along the way. If I have, feel free to throw in right now if I've skipped any sort of areas that I've moved along through your life. But one of the questions I do want to ask is like, what's the future hold for you now? Like, what are your plans? Do you have any like big inspirations on the cards that you want to achieve, or what's that for you now?
So I will say that I'm very superstitious, and my grandmother always says you never tell people your plans because they'll fill them up with envy and evil eyes. But I'll give you the piece that I know is going to happen no matter how many evil eyes come my way. But I'm not going to mention a big surprise that hopefully you guys all get to experience in 3 to 5 years. But the one thing I do expect within the next year or so is I want to have a team of at least 6 recruiters. I have 2 now that work remote part-time. They're both moms, single moms who work for me part-time. And I want to really be able to, I started bringing in business already. So we have a few really good things going on, and working with them, I feel like I want to be able to build a company where I have at least 6, single parents, whether mom or dad, working for me, because recruiting really does enable you to have a good amount of money. I love recruiting. Like I said, it has changed my life. I never thought in a million years that I would be able to invest over $100,000. Like I didn't think I would have that money available to me, especially because I had a hard time. I dropped out of high school 3 times. I dropped out of college twice. So I just felt like I was never going to really be able to have financial freedom, and recruiting has enabled me to be able to do whatever the fuck I want. I can travel whenever I want. So my goal is to be able to have a team at least, within the next year of like 6 recruiters. And then hopefully within the next 3 to 5 years, we could be a bigger competition internationally.
I definitely wish you all the best with that. And I think you're going to do it when you stay on this track. You absolutely know your industry. You can tell you've got the experience and the passion and the focus for it. So I have no doubt you're gonna reach there. Millijay, I just want to say, is it okay? Do you want to open the messages? Any comments
Please.
from the listeners?
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to do that now. I'm going to open the messages to the listeners. If you want to ask or thank or anything to Millijay, now is the time. While I usually do this for conversations with other people, but I'm going to do that as well from strangers to friends episodes where I ask 20 questions. Do you want to answer 20 random questions? It's like a bit of a game that I play just as we sort of end the podcast.
How about 21 questions, like 50 cents?
Let's do it. I think I have a spare one here. Well, I don't know. Someone can count. It might just be 20. We'll see. Okay. So I need to change these up soon. I think once I do about 10 of these shows, we're just close. I'm going to change up these questions. But basically, here we go. So you have to answer them kind of as quick as possible. So the first answer that comes into your head. Have your parents ever seen you naked as an adult?
No. Thank God.
No. Well, next one's who would you turn gay for? But you're bi, so I wonder who would you... Yeah, so that's 19 questions then. Here we go. All right. Do you prefer dad bods or chiseled six packs?
Dudes with 6 packs. Sorry, I'm shallow.
How long does it take for you to get ready before you head out the door?
Oh my God, like an hour?
An hour. Okay,
that's
so
not bad,
have you ever...
Right? Can you guys tell me?
It's pretty bad. No, it's not that good. 1 hour? Holy shit.
What? It's bad? No, it's not.
What if it's an emergency?
So, really? Oh
What if it's an
Oh my
emergency?
god.
Just throw a ski mask
Um,
on.
damn. Yeah, if it's an emergency. Depends what kind of emergency. There's no real emergencies in my
Life or
life.
death?
No.
Oh, 30 minutes then. Yeah, right. So
Yeah,
have you
30
ever
minutes.
considered have you ever considered plastic surgery? And if so, for what?
Yes. Oh my God. I'm famous for telling everybody I can't wait to get my tits done. Why?
Okay.
Because I have like a C cup and they're not as perky as I wish they were. And it's because I gained weight, I lost weight, I gained weight, I lost weight. So, you know, boobies get a little saggy when that happens. So I want to get a boob job.
C is good though. I can't complain at a C. That's not too bad at all.
It's not, but I
Okay,
just want
so
them to be perky, you know, because I
more
hate
full.
bras. I'm team no bra.
Sure. I think I know the answer to this next one is, have you ever seriously injured anyone?
Yes.
And I think I know the next one is, have you ever been arrested? Which we do know.
Yes.
So it's probably a little less question. Okay. What sort of pornography is your go-to pornography to watch?
Oh my God. Girls scissoring, hands down.
That's not a bad choice. If you wanted to kill me, how would you do it?
I just picture myself choking the shit out of you right now. I don't know, maybe because I just said scissoring.
Nice one. Asphyxiation. Let's just put it down to that. Okay, so
Yes.
would you pay for a guy on your first date out?
You know, I have paid for a guy on my first day out, and you better have some bomb dick, but I'm not going to marry you.
It's kind of a
Yeah, I
put-off, huh?
believe a man has to pay for a woman on the first date. I'm old school like
Well, I'm
that.
much the same too. Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Okay, so a reason why you've dumped a partner before in the past?
Yeah, just recently I had to leave my ex who loved me very much, and I loved him, but we had to part ways.
Okay.
I've
What's
always
the
been the
reason?
one to dump my exes, actually. I think I've only got dumped once, and he's the only one I don't get along with. I wonder why.
You're a heartbreaker. Yeah, what was the
Yeah.
reason?
What was that?
What was the reason?
Oh, unfortunately, he got addicted to drugs, and I
Oh,
couldn't
okay.
put up with his. Yeah, I needed him to really let it go, and his recovery was very long. He's drug free now. I'm proud of him. Shout out to my guy. We're cool or whatever, but yeah, I don't see him the same because I saw some, dark pieces of him I never want to remember.
Okay. Okay, so a most embarrassing moment that's happened to you?
I peed my pants in the 4th grade, and I also didn't really speak English. And you know what I don't understand why, but my fucking teacher, so they washed my my pants in school, the jeans or whatever, and they put them. I'll never forget. I remember perfectly. They put them in the pole of the fucking flag. Like I'm like this. Why would they do that? She opened the window. She put him
Holy
in the
shit.
pole of the fucking flag. That was embarrassing as fuck. Yes, I will never forget it.
And nor will I. All right, so if you could change one thing in the world, what would it be?
I'd change poverty. I think it really sucks that people have to, struggle to eat. Or, here in the East Coast, it gets really fucking cold in the winter. And you see people's hands literally turn fucking purple. They're swollen of how cold it is. I don't think anybody should go through that. We have enough money to be able to make sure that nobody has to be poor.
It's a good choice. If you held a
Yeah.
world record, what would it be for?
The person that says "ew" the most.
You win it hands down. Hands down.
He's not the first thing that comes to mind, so
That's it, perfect. If you could be one animal in the world, what would you be and why?
I would be a tiger.
Why?
Because I think I have like tiger eyes already. I've been told to have really sexy, like a seduction type of look, and I feel like tigers have that look.
Okay, next one is, what location in the world are you least likely to visit?
I would say probably Antarctica.
Okay. It's probably kind of high on my list. All right, so what is the one app that you couldn't live without?
Stereo, duh. Ew.
Oh, you're the first one to say it, Nobody said it yet.
Really?
Yeah,
That's
believe it or not. Yeah.
bullshit. Everybody's
Yeah, no.
lying. We're all in here. We all love this shit. And there's
In
a
an
whole
ideal
group of
world,
people trying to get me banned. So they want me to die. I will die if I can't do stereo.
in an ideal world, how many hours a day would you stay awake?
Oh my God, I wouldn't sleep. Life is so beautiful. I want to just be able to like, discover every place, everywhere. I know I said I wouldn't want to go to Antarctica. It's not up in my priority list, but I want to be able to explore everything and be able to read everything and watch all the movies and listen to all the music and eat all of the food and not get fat. So yeah,
Okay.
nothing. I wouldn't sleep.
And last one is, if you could go back to school for 1 year, which grade would you choose?
I would choose the 7th grade.
Why?
Because in the 7th grade, I feel like it really did. It just the people I continued from the 7th grade, I continued to be with for a lot of years to come, and it wasn't until later, until we were adults, that I was nicer to them. Again, I didn't understand their pain and their struggle, and I got into a lot of fights in the 7th grade. So, like they were stupid little fights. They weren't like physical punching, but little catty. Sometimes words hurt more than physical action.
Hmm. I agree with that. Now I'm gonna pop. We got one message through, and that's from Mrs. Smitty. So let's pop that and see what she's got to say. Thank you for chiming in, Mrs. Smitty.
I just wanted to give a shout out to both of you. I've been here listening for most of this, and I talk to Millijay virtually every day, sometimes for hours and hours a day. And here I thought I really knew a lot about you, but I have learned so much during this interview. So thank you, Rocstedi, for bringing this to us. And Millijay, you know that I love you to death. This has been great. Thanks so much to both of you.
Thank you, Miss Smitty. Yes, I'm
Thank
a
you,
bad
Mrs.
bitch.
Smitty.
I'm crazy as fuck. I'll never stab you though, I promise.
Oh, my screen's frozen here. You can still hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you, and I
Okay,
see
perfect. All right.
we're getting claps and hearts. Ew.
Oh, good. Nice. Okay, it's frozen with Mrs. Smitty on the screen with us. I feel like she's joining us right now because the message is still up.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shout out to Miss Smitty.
So
She didn't want to leave.
shout out to Miss Smitty. No, I really appreciate she's like kind of taking the time with me recently for the very first interview I did this with Conversations with Other People, which I only started posting on social media from the second one onwards. So I'm going to go and repost the first one because I want everyone to listen to Mrs. Smitty as well. And yeah, she's just she's been such a lovely lady that I'm really fortunate to get to know recently. So thank you, Mrs. Smitty, for your time, and I hope there's some claps going up there. I can't see anything because the screen's frozen, although your head is still rocking back and forth, Millijay. But everything's still frozen.
I've been rocking my head. I run my hair back and forth. Okay, sorry.
I normally I'll ask my guest if there's anyone else you want me to interview. You don't have to say anyone if you don't want to, but if there is anyone in mind that you want to interview, that you want people in stereo to know a little bit more and that might share their life, then feel free to do so. If not, that's okay.
Yeah, I actually
You don't
would
have
like
to.
for you to interview Core. Do you know who Core is?
Corey, yes, I do. I do know Corey, yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
I would like for you to interview Core if possible.
Okay.
I don't know if she'll
I
accept.
can,
She probably will.
Well, I'll reach out to her, and I'll see if she'll accept. And I think that these shows are really great for people to get to know each other and our lives on stereo, because I think there's been a lot of, in the recent months, I've seen fighting and bickering and stuff getting a little bit worse in the stereo streets. And I think there's, as well as the avatars are, there's something that kind of takes out the realism of if you were face to face with a person. So to put that character behind the person, I think it's just lovely to do. So I'm going to reach out to Corey, and Corey is Corey.
Yeah, I
C-O-R-E.
recently actually.
Yep.
I
Okay.
this morning found out something about her life that I didn't know before. So I would love to hear that interview.
Yeah, sure. I'll ask her. Hopefully she accepts. And it'd be nice to get to know each other on these levels. So, Millijay, I want to especially thank you for coming onto the show today. It's been lovely to get to know about your life. Thank you for being so open and honest. I hope it was kind of therapeutic in a way for you to like look back at your life and run through it with somebody. And I hope you enjoyed yourself.
Is your screen still frozen? Because we have 3 bubbles.
Oh, is it? Yeah, it is. Let me maybe swipe in and out again or something. Oh, unless you want to pop them. I can't see who it is.
All right, I'll pop it. All right, hold on a second. Let me get my phone.
Sure.
We got EMC in the clip. Ew. Oops, sorry.
Rocstedi, my girl, the spicy Latina Millijay Green. Okay. I have learned so much about you tonight, and thank you for offering a piece of yourself for us to understand your history and your past and to get to know you on a deeper and an emotional level. You know I love you.
I love you too, EMC. Ew, shout out to my Pisces in the building.
Thanks, EMC.
All right,
Is there another bubble? Yeah, you're in total control because I can't see anything.
All right, word. I like control. Legends.
Hey, Rocstedi. Hey, Millijay. It's your boy, Legends. Hey, that's a beautiful show, guys. Definitely learned a lot about you, Millie. Appreciate you even more now. Rock, great job doing the interview, bro. And much love to both of you.
Yeah, Rocstedi.
Legend.
You know, I said I wanted just like single parents, but if you want a job recruiting, you know, we could talk about maybe I could expand with you first internationally because you are a great recruiter, and that is, you know, very important when you are recruiting, being able to, you know, take ownership of a conversation, and you definitely did a great job. So thank you for this time.
Thank you.
I
appreciate
it.
that.
Absolutely.
It's something I love doing here.
I love it. I'm here for it. We got Nerdy Aspects, Joshua. Ew.
Actually, it looks like they have removed the animatronics upon request because it was a lot of additional movement. Your avatars are not moving any longer at all, it seems like.
Yeah, I don't see mine moving either.
I can see, like, that's all that's moving on my screen, my whole screen. I'm going to try, sorry, we're ending the show now anyway. I just don't want to miss anything, any more bubbles, but you're in control. Yeah, you're still swaying.
So that's
still,
you're like, I look extra spicy, bobbling my head around and shit while I've been responding to the questions.
I didn't know that they put winking in, like you keep winking at me, so that's really nice. That's good to see.
Oh, well, that's me purpose. I'm doing that on purpose. They didn't put it.
I'm trying to wink back, but I keep blinking. But
right.
okay.
We got my girl M Spectacular.
Oh, there is?
The clip.
Perfect.
Yep. All right.
Rocstedi, you have chosen the greatest thing to do on this app, which is to interview at a personal, deep level. Choosing Millijay today was a great choice. As for everyone else that you have interviewed thus far, wonderful. May you all stay spectacular, and I'm gonna press the replay later on for the first half of the show that I missed.
And shout out to my girls, spectacular, stay spectacular. You feel me? Well, since you can't shout everybody out, I will do so. We got Miss Smitty in the building, M Spectacular, Dr. Diamond P. I see E Reed in the building as well. I hope you learned a little bit more about me. Even if you still don't like me, it's all good. I appreciate you being here listening to my story. Dr. P, Legends, Lolly Be Good, Allison, Queen Black Stereo, Spirited, Sully, Jenny, my girl Jenny, EMC, and Jay Nanya. I don't know who that is, but shout out to you. Thank you, everybody, for your time. I appreciate you guys listening to my story, but more importantly, Rocstedi, as I said, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it, and you're so good at this.
Thank you very much. No, I appreciated your time more than anything, and I hope you had a blast. And I'll do a follow-up call with you offline just to see that you're all good the next 24 hours. I've just started to call people because sometimes the last couple got a little emotional for people, so I just want to check in. Everything's good, but I think you absolutely nailed it, so well done to you.
Awesome. Thank you, Rocstedi. I really appreciate it. And shout out to everybody in the room. Your girl, Millijay, is going to go and sleep because you got to get that beauty sleep in. You feel me?
Damn.
Take
you
care,
don't need much of it. So
Bye,
thank you. All the best, guys. Thanks to the listeners. Okay. Bye-bye.
Ciao.